Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We are so glad to have you back with us as we are on Hump Day. And our guest, Dammegård, is going to be here momentarily. We're going to get into some weird topics tonight. And I love it when it gets weird. And enjoy tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. But the best part about tonight, we have each and every one of you, including Tim Mothman and his goatee in the gold medal position. Paramar with a silver, Kitty Caddywhack taking up the bronze medal tonight. Luscious Jules, how are you? As we kick off roll call. Mel WD-40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show because you can't talk conspiracy without being lubed up. So Mel, thank you very much. Race fan, Thunderhead and Ann B, how are you? Frankie B, nice to have you here as we continue on with our roll call. Mama Catherine, mwah, I love you, my dear. I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful night. And I hope we're going to have a great show that you're going to enjoy tonight. I think we will. Kathy Evans, nice to see you as we continue on with our roll call. T-Bone is here. T-Bone will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. He's only signing in blue pen because of the Toronto Blue Jays. That's it. Blue Sharpie. That's it. Scrolling on down, Eternity Eternal, nice to see you. And Kimberly Jackshaw, how are you tonight? Thank you for joining us as we continue on with our roll call here. Good morning, Skip to my Lou in Denmark. And where else are we? Mickey G is here. Mickey G will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio as we continue on with our roll call here. We say hello to Operation Shutdown. And Thomas Rock, a.k.a. Alpine Fur. Signs of Life, nice to see you. And who is next on our list? Let's scroll on down and say hello to Matthew Gutka, Necessary Dialogue, Aussie Boss Tiger, and We Runa Farms. How are you guys doing? And the Aussies are coming in strong. Carla, how are you tonight? Nice to see you. Algaray over on Twitch, 2,500 push-ups in 7 minutes to warm up for tonight's show. Good to have you all jacked up. Shell Heaton, nice to see you again as we continue on with our roll call here. Laura Lobbs, nice to have you here. Lisa Smith and Deborah. How are you, little Deborah? Nice to see you again. And What in Tarnation, nice to see you. Robert Lamoth and Kimberly, thank you so much for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very, very much for your love. Jerence Carter, nice to have you here. Unknown, how are you doing? Nice to see you. Fapparoony, what's going on with your Dodgers, buddy? You're down 3-2, going into Game 6, heading back to Toronto. Hogtown is going wild right now. Emperor Penguin, how are you? Canna Chef Chris, how you doing? And let me get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Dammegård is our guest tonight. We're going to get into some strange theories. Yeah, just be ready. That's all I'm going to say. Be ready because it's going to be amazing. We are in roll call on our YouTube side for the next 30 seconds. Caged on the inside, how are you tonight? Tiki Torch, welcome to Spaced Out Radio in the chat room. Thank you for joining us. And Rory, nice to have you back. I'm Hardcore over on X. Thanks for listening on in. And who is next? I think we're almost caught up here. Who is this? Amateur Strums, welcome to SOR Chat. 20 seconds left. The super chat is open. Wonderful way to support what we do on this show. Hello, Tess. How are you? John Jackson, nice to see you. Our store is open. We got brand new swag up there. Make sure you go check it on out if you haven't seen the video I posted. And Chaz, how are you? Do me a favor, everybody. Throw those horns up. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Shush. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the little cabin in the woods, where together, my friends, we own the night. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We are going to have an amazing show tonight. We are going down many rabbit holes. Researcher Ole Dammegard is here tonight to talk about some weird stories involving celebrities and people in the public. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller will join us for another crazy story. We're going to extend the version of Katie Page. You guys asked for it, so the encounters will be extended. We're going to skip the Dave 101 because of it, and we have the weird news of the week as well. So let's get right to it. Ole Dammegard is a truth seeker, code breaker, and peacemaker. He joins us for an in-depth conversation uncovering the secrets behind some of history's most shocking events, learning from giants like Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. Ole has spent over 40 years investigating global conspiracies, false flag operations, media manipulation, and so much more. We're also going to get into a little bit of a topic that's different from what we do, which different is good every now and again, like mysterious pop icon deaths. Yeah. His website, lightonconspiracies.com, if you want to check it on out. Ole Dammegard, welcome to Spaced Out Radio, my friend. Good to have you here. How are you?
I'm doing great, and thank you so much for inviting me, Dave.
Now, you're over in Bali, surrounded by beautiful ocean water, which contains many, many sharks. Are you safe there? Because my audience knows I have a primal fear of sharks.
There are no sharks here, as far as I know. Only reef sharks, but beautiful, beautiful waters for sure.
Oh, man, that must be nice. Must be nice. I got to ask you in regards to your adventures into the conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theory over the years has become such an ugly term. It really has.
Yeah, but the thing is that the word conspiracy and theory was put together by the CIA in 1964. It was an operation from 64 to 67 to make people like us look like jokes. So the thing is, they've been extremely successful in weaponizing this expression, conspiracy theory or conspiracy theorist, because it makes it possible to just disregard people that are critical to the official narrative. So the thing is with conspiracy, I mean, you in the States or in Canada, you know that in any legal case, there's often a conspiracy to arson, conspiracy to fraud, conspiracy to whatever. Conspiracy is actually an old Latin word that means breathing together. So, but it has become this word that shows that two or more people are involved in planning or carrying out criminal activity. And the word theory, when you think of the word theory, it's been completely misused, because now it's like, sounds like speculation, but it's like, if you take music theory, is that speculations about, yes, this chord might be well going with that one? Not at all. It is, conspiracy is making it visible. It is making music visible. Music theory is making music visible. And so you got the Einstein theory, relativity theory. That was not sort of like pure speculation. You got like, if you have you go to the driving school and you have to put down a test, it is on traffic theory. So the whole thing that theory means speculation is completely wrong. So yes, conspiracy is one thing, and I would like to see myself as a crime investigator, or yeah, more or less that. And then it has been, the more successful you become in exposing these type of criminal activities, the more you will be hit with this word conspiracy theory. And as soon as people, it's been so successful, this CIA operation from 64 and onwards, that as soon as you mention the word conspiracy, people's mind will add the word theory, and you will be disregarded right away. So yeah, it's, you have to congratulate them, because they've been good at messing it up for us.
Did you ever look at yourself and say, this is what I wanted to do in my life? Or did you say, there's something wrong here, I need to be able to really look into this, because I need this itch I need to scratch, because 2 + 2 isn't equaling 4?
It's the last option. It's like, I'm never sort of, yes, this is what I'm going to do. Absolutely not. I was born into this world very confused. It later turned out that my parents were living a double life my whole life. They died not that many years ago. So I have it in my DNA, I think, to be confused and just feeling there's something wrong. This doesn't make any sense. This doesn't match up, you know? So I think from a very, very early age, I got that mindset of like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I need to try and find out what's going on. And then over the years, I started working as a journalist. And then that took me more and more into the world of real conspiracies, because it's sort of like, as a journalist, I found very early on, I mean, I was a journalist in the 80s, and I was just like, what's going on here? Because it doesn't make, people are not looking into what is important. They're just, you know, buying the official narrative on a local, on a national, and apparently on an international level as well. It's just like pushing on pre-written stuff, you know, instead of, I was very proud of being a journalist, because I thought that we were doing a really important job, which was to keep people in power positions under sort of control, under surveillance, so that we would say, listen, I see that you got your hand in the cookie jar, get it out, because we will keep our eye on you. But journalism doesn't exist anymore, as far as I know. I mean, I don't know any real journalist anymore. It's more up to so-called ordinary people to do this investigative work, because it's not done from an official point of view. So if I can just answer your question, my wake-up call was in 1980. I know the exact day it happened. It was the first time I saw the so-called Zapruder film, you know, where you see that Kennedy is hit in the head. And as soon as I saw that his head was thrown backwards and to the left, I mean, I've got a simple mind, and it's sort of like 1 + 1 = 2. That's what I call Farmer Brown logic. That is what I live my life by, because the truth is always very simple. It can be extremely difficult to find, but the truth is very simple, very simple. So it took me about 18-20 seconds to understand that somebody must have been, at least one shooter must have been standing to the right and to the front of Kennedy when he was hit in the head like that. It's normal physics. But the official narrative said, no, behind him, up 6 floors, up in a school book depository, made absolutely no sense, behind a tree with a rifle that couldn't hit anything. It's like, so right away it was like, I don't get it. That's so obviously not true. Why am I being lied to? And these were people on a very high level, you know, like very big documentaries and very heavyweight Pulitzer Prize winning journalists that was backing what was very obviously not true. So it's taken me some 44 or 5 years to, I believe that at this point I have come to expose most of what was going on that day in Dealey Plaza on a street level, not the bigger picture. I focused on a street level. And so I identified more or less everyone, all the shooters that were there, because this was an ambush, masterclass ambush, like multiple teams involved, multiple shooters. This whole narrative, was there one shooter, 2 shooters? It's like, give me a sleeping pill, because once you start looking into it, it's just like, oh my God, this is so advanced. And the thing is, it was that shot that was fired from the right, from the grassy knoll, the thing that made JFK's head explode. That shot was not meant to be carried out. It was as the last resort, because the teams were informed, we go for a headshot. So the different shooters were heading or aiming to hit him in the head, but they were all missing. And so the shooter at the grassy knoll had been informed, if as a last resort, take him out, and that he did. So his shot, the shooter's name is James Files. He's still alive. I've done multiple interviews with him. I've been backing him from the mid-90s and onwards. And now finally his story is coming quite out in the big arena after all of these years. But anyway, so had he not fired that shot, then most of us would have bought into the official narrative. It was his shot that messed it up. It was his shot that they had, because he used special ammo that blew the head off him, that had the teams behind this operation to do a lot of things to try and rearrange the injuries on the skull. They had to do all kinds of stuff, and also shut up so many witnesses. I mean, there are many witnesses or people with some kind of connection to the JFK assassination that have died over the years. And this is because the lie has just grown and grown and grown and grown. So this is there's always something that goes wrong in these operations, and that is often the entrance into where you can find the truth, and also the reason for conspiracies being sort of piled on top of this whole thing. Because normally in these cases, there's one conspiracy, the act itself, the murder or the bombing or whatever it is, but then most of the time, if this is an inside job or from one of the agencies or whatever, then there's a secondary conspiracy following, and that's the conspiracy. I call it conspiracy of silence. This glass wall of silence that follows these big cases, where nobody stands up, nobody in power positions, nobody that should normally speak out does it. So there's this unseen hand that just squeezes all kinds of official efforts to expose it. Instead, it's silence, and then we're being served this official narrative that very often falls apart very quickly once you start looking at it.
I want to touch on JFK a little bit later in the show, but because it's one of the subjects that it fascinates me, especially with it coming back up in the news here with what I like to call the Conspiracy Club put on by Anna Paulina Luna and many others in the U.S. government. So we will get into that. Over the last number of years, social media has really done a number on trying to eliminate conspiracy theorists from their platforms. How have you been able to survive this? Because so many others have been, taken off the air or had their work removed.
Dave, I've been called the most censored person on the internet. I've been shot. I've been almost poisoned. I've been almost hit by cars. I've had to change country twice and take my family with me. I've had multiple murder threats. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that I have been in it, not from a logical point of view, because from a logical point of view, I would have on an early stage just said, my God, this is too much. I need to get out because this is not healthy at all. But you asked me before, why am I on this track? And I think it's almost like my soul's purpose. It's almost, I don't know what to say, but it's like my mind is quite famous because it can take all of these facts. I mean, it's like a database. I'm like Rain Man when it comes to these operations. You put me in the kitchen, I'm an absolute disaster. You put me in other situations, I'm handicapped. I can't function. But in this area, for some specific reason, this meat suit seems to have been made for it. And then with my background, with my parents living a double life as secret assets for NATO, I found out after their death in the Gladio network. The way there's no logic for me, there's no gain for me to have been in the receiving end of all of this. And also, I mean, like all of the censorship and the attacks and I could go on for hours and hours of what happened, because the truth is not popular among the people who are carrying it out. The dark forces, that's the only thing they really fear, is the truth. That's why they eliminate people. When it comes to a high level of when you really start digging into, it's not enough to like somebody on something on Facebook or whatever, but when you start digging and you start pulling the curtain, that's when it gets ugly. And so unfortunately, I have multiple friends who are no longer with us. I have people that are very dear to me that had their career destroyed, their reputation, their credibility, their families taken away from them. I mean, this is an ugly world to get into. So from a logical point of view, it makes no sense for me to be here at all. Financially, no sense whatsoever. But there has been something in me that has just been saying, go on, go on, go on. And I'm like, but I'm shit scared. I don't want to go on, go on, go on. And also putting my family at risk, that is the worst of it all. So yeah, but a few years ago most people say now that they're being, censored and so on. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Like a year ago, I've been shut down on YouTube, on Patreon, on BitChute, on you name it. Vimeo shut me down. All of these different platforms. A few years ago, I checked my name on Google. It was like, I've done more than 1,300 interviews. So there was like 1.8 million hits on my name. I was just checking it, And then a year ago, I checked and there was 19,400. So even though I kept doing interviews, so from 1.8 million down to 19,000, that is, I would say, a very, very powerful digital filter that is there to shut also the traffic in. It's very hard for people to find my website. It's domains name, my Dammegard.com has been hijacked. Now it's like a legal firm in El Paso. I mean, what the hell is that? And so on. So, yeah.
Do you feel like you're still on the run now?
I've never been on the run. I've been as streetwise as possible to relocate myself when I felt needed. I've never run. I'm not hiding. I've never been hiding. I've always, if people wanted to contact me, I'm here. I have no encryption on my emails. My address has been on my website, stuff like that. So not hiding.
As you have, taken on these tasks, why do it? What is the purpose of it all?
Dave, you tell me. I'm not sure. I just know in my soul that when I see something that is not right, when people get hurt, it's always, us ordinary people that get hurt. It's always ordinary, so-called, if there is such a thing as ordinary people, but people, sort of normal people that are in the receiving end of this pain that is delivered out by an elite few that are sitting in the background and just hammering away on us. And it's like being in a schoolyard and you see a bully that is just like beating somebody up. I just can't be quiet. I just, and then over the years also, the more I got into so-called false flag operations, where I found through insiders that they were actually leaving clues in the forensic evidence about upcoming attacks that they were planning. I'm now talking about state-sponsored terror, not ICE, not Muslim terrorists, nothing like that. Every single time I look into these ones, they're from the inside. CIA, Mossad is there all the time, and then backed by whatever country is there. It's the same again and again and again. And once I found out that they actually leave these clues in the forensic evidence, I was like, to start with, I thought, why on earth would they do such a stupid thing? But then an insider informed me that the reason they do it is because they're very, very scared of the law of karma. What you do comes back to you. So the way they see it is that if they tell us what they're doing, if they tell us even in subtle ways what they did or what they are doing, then if we don't notice, at least they told us, and so the bad karma's on our shoulder. We should have known, we should have understood because they told us. So once I understood, that was back in 2015 or whatever, that is actually true, that they leave these clues. So that was when I started specializing on finding the clues and then being part of stopping planned attacks. So over the years, my last name has actually become a verb. #Dammegard or #Dammegarding is to find these clues and be part of stopping upcoming attacks. So, yeah.
We have about 2 minutes to go before we have to go to break. At the bottom of the hour, Ole Dammegard is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Ole, you know, there have been so many cases around the world of strange things happening to famous people, which we will talk about next. I mean, a lot of these people seem to be taken down by what seems to be innocence going on, maybe a car accident or a helicopter crash like Kobe Bryant or something along those lines. But you tend to think, with 90 seconds to go, that for some of these cases, there's more to it.
Unfortunately, many of them. Let
me ask you this. What has to look in a case, or what has to show in a case that makes you say there's something more here?
It can be, I mean, first we're being served the official narrative. So what I do when I try to go on the crime scene if I can. If I cannot, because now I'm living in the Far East, and also it's become more and more dangerous for me to go to certain countries. But once I check out the official narrative, when you start quite early on, if it's a stage event or if it's one of their operations, you will start finding that it doesn't match up at all. The official narrative doesn't match up. It's following like an old template. I think it was the old Romans that came up with templates on how to eliminate enemies, or how to eliminate critics or political enemies there as well, and get away with it. Blame it on a patsy, control the investigation, control so-called commissions that would be following the investigation if the public doesn't buy into the official narrative. And so it's over the years, I mean, I've looked into so many different cases, and after a while, you start seeing a very clear pattern on how they carry these operations out. They follow a very specific template when it's them who are doing it. Then, of course, you have natural causes of death. You have natural accidents. You have natural this and that. But
we'll get some more. Ole Dammegard here on Spaced Out Radio. I'm already into this. I hope you are too. It's going to be great for the next 90 minutes on Spaced Out Radio. Great start. Great start.
Thank you.
You still have fun talking about all these topics? Or is it just an eye roll moment now? It's like, I've done this so much.
No, not at all. It's like, as if I feel that I can be of service, that I can help to prevent somebody from getting hurt or prevent these very dark forces to get away with what they're trying to do. I mean, it's what is going on in the world is not madness. It's a very detailed plan to but maybe it's better to take that when we're back on the air. So no, for sure, I'll be happy. I'm here to be of service. If anything I found out over the years can be of help, then I'm here. It's also for healing purposes, because there's so many traumas surrounding these things,
Oh, I hear you. I hear you. So many questions, man. I could probably have you on for a week.
Oh, there you go. I'll be happy to come back anytime. Not anytime, but
I hear you. No, man, it's very interesting to go down these rabbit holes so much. I mean, you can almost get lost in translation if you go, too hard into it. How do you, as a former journalist, then, how do you push yourself through I'll just say it this way, the bullshit from the truth? Because mainstream media, and I agree with what you said about mainstream media, it has changed since I went to broadcasting school. And it's become infotainment, which I don't think is very healthy, rather than telling the truth and being the eyes and ears of the people, which is your job, or is the job of a journalist. How do you, but on the flip side, a lot of this alternative news is never sourced. It's very highly opinionated and skewed to one side of the ledger or the other. How do you find your balance in all of that?
It's very difficult. It is very, 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 very difficult. And it's so easy to get tunnel vision. You see one thing and two things that matches up with whatever people want to see, and they jump to conclusion right away. So this is why when something happens, because most people, when there's a false flag or an alleged terror attack or an alleged mass shooting, assassination, when that happens, many people from around the world contact me and they want to know right away. I keep quiet. I download everything, all the things that is from mainstream media, alternative media, intel sources, whatever. I download, because nowadays this gets censored so fast. I tell you, if you just go back to the alleged Charlie Kirk shooting, you will see that a lot of the stuff that you looked, if you try to find that again now, it will be gone. So what I do is I download everything and save it. I've got like an 8 terabyte jam-packed backup that is perfectly organized with thousands of cases. So I download, and then I start going through it step by step by things that I don't agree with, things that I agree with, things whatever it is, because it's when you start to get the bigger overview picture of the things, of these jigsaw puzzle pieces, that's when you can start putting it together. And very often it's like, if you have a jigsaw puzzle but with the picture side down, it's only when you fit the pieces and you get a bigger picture slowly, that's when you can turn it around. Like with the JFK assassination, it took me 30 odd years to get a quite complete picture of actually went down. And I mean, I read hundreds of books. I've been a speaker in Dallas 3 times. I've been I'm a friend of many of the people that are key in this whole thing, like Lee Oswald's girlfriend, Judith Berry Baker, or E. Howard Hunt's son is a friend of mine that I very much appreciate, or the Babushka lady and so on. So I really try to go as deep as possible, and then I say stuff. And when I say it, my intention is that it's like to be up against Mike Tyson, because the truth, once you see it, it's not up for debate. It's not. once you get the picture complete enough, you can't really say anything.
Hold that thought, because this leads into our next portion here coming up right now. We're into the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Oldie Dammegard is our guest tonight, and we're going to be talking about strange ways people have left this planet. But first, we want to remind everybody right now that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here he is. Oldie Dammegard is our guest. lightonconspiracies.com is his website. And we're going to start getting into some of these stories. But first, one of the things I want to talk to you about, Oldie, is false flags. We talked a little bit about journalism in the last break, how it's really, trying to be a part of the story instead of covering the story, which is highly dangerous for the field of journalism. And we're relying more on citizen journalism. But the problem is, if you don't believe the mainstream media, you end up going to alternative, which usually, for the most part, is independent, what I like to call citizen journalists, who may not have the connections, they may not have the inside sources to give you the truth of what's going on, so you're getting more of a biased opinion. But false flags is something that I think are real, but dangerous at the same time, because we're getting to a point in society where nothing can happen, or something can happen, and immediately it's a false flag event. Are they happening that often, or are we abusing the term false flag?
First of all, I would say it's great news that people know about false flags, because before, for instance, the Boston bombing, I think that was the first time when people starting hearing about the term false flag operation. Before that, it was only nerds like myself who were in this world of seeing what false flag operations are. And I just want to point out what a false flag operation it is. It's an old naval term from the years when the great British Empire was sailing around Portugal, Holland, conquering and just massacring, invading whatever country they wanted to. But that led to complications with trading agreements and stuff, because they were just murdering bullies, So somebody, I don't know who came up with it. I would not be surprised if it's the old Roman again. But what they came up with, the idea was like, what if we put our flag on one of our ships, or we put the enemy's flag on one of our ships, and then we let that ship, our own ship, attack ourselves, meaning we're under attack, and that would then justify us invasion, rape, and plunder. So a false flag is that you put the wrong flag on your own ship, you attack yourself, and then that justifies whatever you want to do. And so instead of you being the horrendous murderer, rapist that just goes into whatever weak, innocent country and just slaughter everybody, if they attacked you first, then that would justify you doing it. So instead of being horrible, they were applauded. And then over the years, the pirates found out that, whoa, that's a good one. So they started doing the same, but they turned it around so that, for instance, they put, if it was a Spanish armada that was out there, they just put up the Spanish flag. And then they got closer and closer and closer to the target. And many times the normal ship, they just thought, oh, it's one of ours. And they didn't really notice the peg legs and the parrot on the shoulders until it was too late. So a false flag is a psychological mind fuckery, sorry for the name, but that is when they turned it around. They play with your mind so that the attacked one, you have to understand, it's actually the attacker. So if you ask me, how often is it used? It is used on a mind-blowing scale nowadays. It is on unbelievably often that they use it. It's on a daily basis. And so over the years, I have looked into hundreds and hundreds of alleged mass shootings. They're always in the US because that's where they want to get rid of the guns. And alleged terror attacks, most of the time in Europe or the Middle East, because that if there are not any guns, that they have to do it in a different way to conquer these countries. Over the years, I cannot say how high a percentage of these were false flag that I found out, but it was like, so false flags nowadays are used extremely often because it's almost like we're up against one enemy now. It used to be that the enemy was sort of in many different locations. Now we have one global, it's not a nation, it's not a faith, it's not a group, but it's sort of like a, how should I say it? Yeah, like an elite network that are hiding behind, now it's like corporations, like anonymous corporations facades. So in the old days, you had big, great empires, you had like kingdoms, and they were fighting each other. Then it was like families. Now this whole thing is hiding behind like companies like BlackRock, State Rock, Vanguard, anonymous, these power structures that we have no idea who they are. So that's what we're up against. And they are using it. I mean, and I want to say that people say CIA, Mossad, as if it was two different things. Yes, they are on a street level. The higher up you come in the power structure, the more connected they are. They are completely in bed with each other. And so Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agency, or intelligence is, I think they hijacked that word because it should be replaced by madness, this Israeli madness agency. Their motto is war by deception. War, listen to those words, war by deception. What does deception mean to you? That is false flags. It is how to get into your mind, make you believe something they want you to believe while they get away with what they're doing. So many of these operations are there to divert your attention away from something else. So when something says boom over here, everybody's looking there, the media, everybody, whoa, 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 I'm looking here. What? Do a 360, because that is very often where the important thing goes on. So please be aware, boom, don't look there. That's any magician, any mind illusionist on the stage, they want to divert your attention to something. Like if you're up with David Copperfield or something like that, they're doing something with their left hand and boom, you got a rabbit. Oh my God, magic. What you have to do, or what I would suggest, where is the other hand? Where is the other hand? And so do a 360 around, and suddenly you will see maybe behind his back that he's actually doing the whole trick behind his back with the other hand. This is in a symbolic way. So be aware of these. When it says boom, and you suddenly see like O.J. Simpson trial goes on forever. The whole media is like, whoa. Okay, fair enough. If this is like big trials, then you had the Martin Luther King family that made a trial in 1999 where they proved that it was these different agencies, the FBI, the CIA, were deeply involved in the murder of Martin Luther King. How many journalists were there? One local journalist in total the whole time. One. And then you have these other ones where it's like the media is camping outside and they're staying there day and night. So be aware of what was going on when these things happen. When this thing happened, when you had this massive focus at one point, look around you, because that is very often, or if somebody says something really like, let's buy Greenland, everybody looks towards Greenland. What is going on in the background? Let's build a wall, let them pay for it. Everybody looks there. Do you see what I'm saying? You have to see that there's a psychological war going on against humanity, and it's backed by extremely skilled marketing agencies and high knowledge about propaganda, how to get into your mind and twist it in a way so that you will believe their narrative.
Let's get to one of these topics here that, you know, we're bringing you on for tonight. I mean, you believe that there is some sort of conspiracy with a lot of music people, you know, whether it's Whitney Houston, whether it's Elvis or other people involved, John Lennon. Why do you think the music industry is targeted? And what's your favorite case that you like researching?
I don't have favorites like that. I do my job. I think it's always very tragic because most of the time the people that are taken out are beautiful individuals that for some reason have become a problem, or that they're worth more dead than alive. So it's really like a very dark thing. So I don't enjoy looking into like the death of beautiful Whitney Houston. I think it's absolutely horrendous what they did to her. But at the same time, I feel it's my responsibility, because very often I seem to see things that other people don't see. And I think, once again, this meat suit equipped, I don't know what it is, but also that I put down more effort into these things than anyone else that I know of. So why you will see that the way that they get into our mind is through marketing, through propaganda, through all kinds of also mind control. But mind control sounds so it's very limited to certain. In many ways, television is based on mind control, you know, how to get into your mind and make you believe different things, some of it true, some of it not. But the reason for the music business is that is one area where they can really reach you. The film industry, one area where they can really reach you. Book publishing, one area where they can really reach you. News agencies, one area where they can really reach you. So it's a matter of how can they get to you, and this is the music industry is one of them, a very, very important one for them, and an industry that very early on was infiltrated and to a large extent taken over by very dark forces. That was just like they say the music industry, that's exactly it. It's not like the music development, beautiful area for free expression of creativity. No, industry. And in this industry, they don't care about who they deal with at all. It's a brutal industry, as is the film industry. And so in that brutal industry, there's also a lot of dark secrets where people that enter into it, often I don't think that they're aware of what they're getting themselves into. They're just so seduced by this possibility of fame and fortune that they're not aware of who they sign with. And many people like Bob Dylan and many other people have said that they're actually signing a contract with the dude down below, the guy that has a bit of a horny hairstyle and likes to eat with a fork. These are their words, not mine. But what I'm saying is that there's a lot of very dark stuff going on in these industries that are connected to Satanism and yeah, very dark stuff. So when people die in this area, I would say generally it's if they are getting to become too popular and they get big-headed and think that they can, that they don't need the backing before, or that they betray the ones that got them into power, but popular in a way that when they say something, millions will listen. That's when it gets dangerous to the establishment. Like John Lennon, if he said, make babies, not war, that could really affect the Vietnam War in a very, very negative way for the military-industrial complex. When Lady Diana was standing up and saying, let's stop the landmines, that was like one of the part of her death sentences, because landmines are so important in this whole in this operation of a military control drug industry, child trafficking, organ trafficking, blood diamond, all of these things. The minefields are very important in these operations to clear areas. That's what they are used for. They're used to get the local population out of the way, so that they can have the landing strip and poppy fields and all of these things for themselves, or mining or whatever it is. So the mines are really important. That was one of the reasons why Lady Diana was taken out. So, but there's also another one, is that when artists that are super successful, like Whitney, for instance, I mean, the voice of this incredible woman was just like, boom. But then she started hitting up when she was like 35, 40, and suddenly in this very brutal youth-based industry, you're starting going downhill. And so she was starting to have all kinds of problems, and her life was just like spiraling. So what they did was, you can ask, there's many interviews with Shaka Khan and other people in the music industry where they said it comes to a point where you're worth more dead than alive. If you're dead, then they can they don't have to deal with you and your lacking voice and all of these things, or deals that have been signed with you. Once you're dead, boom, you're out of the way. But like when Whitney died, within 2 hours from her death, where she was found face down in the bathtub. I mean, I ask you, Dave, how often do you take a bath face down in the bathtub? Both she and her daughter, Bobby Christine, was found face down. That is in the medical report, face down. But anyway, so within 2 hours before her body was even cold, Sony had already changed the pricing of her albums. They had already prepared for these release of these, in memory of, or the best hits. And it was like she died 2 days before Valentine's. And if there was anyone that was famous for, romantic ballads, it was I Will Always Love You, Whitney Houston. So that Valentine's Day, when boom, she was dead, and the sales went like this, absolutely skyrocketed. How? I ask you. They had even planned to make a movie about her life. So she even met what was her name, Jennifer Hudson, or she even met the actress and her agent, Clive Davis, who's a very, very, very dark individual, if you ask me, in these areas. He introduced the new Jennifer to Whitney as, this is the new Whitney. So she had to be humiliated in front of all of that. So they had planned the release of a movie about her, as well as this whole thing. All of it was on standby. Boom, she dies, and it just takes off. These are the things when you start seeing that. I'll reverse the tape a little bit. There's one person that I really, really admire. His name was Fletcher Prouty. He's the guy who is portrayed by Donald Sutherland in the movie JFK. Fletcher Prouty was working at the Pentagon. He was working within false flag operations all over the world in the 50s and the 60s. Very successful, very skilled. And then he was the guy that they sent to the South Pole just before the assassination of JFK to get rid of him, because he was an honest dude. They wanted him out of the way because he would not accept what they were doing. So anyway, so he became a whistleblower after that. A lot of the things I've learned is from him, from the inside. So what he said, when you look at these things, don't only look at what happens, look at what did not happen, what would normally happen, and then it did not happen. So it's like many, many times, if I look at these ones, I look at things that, wow, why didn't that happen? Why didn't that happen? Why these anomalies? Like, for instance, there's a mass shooting somewhere in a high school or something like that. You speak to SWAT team members. They normally have other jobs, or as bodyguards or whatever it is. Something happens, it's an emergency, so they get a call, boom, you have to come here. So they rush, they go to the station, they sign for their weapons and the bulletproof vest or whatever it is, and then they go on location as a SWAT team. That is often up to like 45 minutes. When many times when you see these alleged mass shootings, you will see that the SWAT team is there within 32 seconds. I'm asking you, okay, so what are the chances of a fully equipped, fully armed SWAT team to be on location within, like, say, 3 minutes? It is absolute nonsense. It is nonsense. And so how come it was there? Because it was part of the operation. That is why these are the things you have to look out for, that doesn't match up. Or where is the ambulance? There's always an ambulance. No, not this time. Where is that? It's not here. Where is it? Normally it would be. Do you know, like, so it's both to see what is there, but also to see what is not there. It's sort of like if I've heard from an Apache tracker that, for instance, if you are in an area and you see something happen inside the circle, so you have to find out who and how did that individual get into the center of the circle, symbolically, okay? So real tracking is not just look for the track. Real tracking is look, it's not here, it was not here, it was not here, it was not here, it was not here. There it is, boom. But every single, just like Edison with the light bulb, he found out this is a way not to invent the trouble. This is a way not to, and it's the same here. You have to look all over, and then boom, you find the real thing, not the one that is trying to deceive you, saying, yeah, but it happened over there. Do I make any sense?
I think it makes complete sense on that, as we have about 2.5 minutes to go before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. Ola Dammegård is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. What about John Lennon?
John Lennon was murdered by a man called Jose Perdomo. He was one of the top assassins in a group called Operation 40 or Group 40, where George Bush Sr. was the guy that funneled the finances into this group. They were a major part of the JFK assassination, where George Bush Sr. was on location as well. And they followed him his whole career. And the Mark Chapman that is said to have been the shooter, absolutely not. Complete patsy, had nothing to do with it, but was there to take the blame for it. Jose Perdomo was working as a doorman that evening alone, and he was the guy that fired 5 shots from the left straight into the chest of John Lennon, whereas Mark Chapman was standing several meters behind him and to the right. And there was an additional backup shooter. He was called the handyman. His name was Clyde Forshaw, if I'm correct. He was there as a handyman, but as a backup shooter as well. That's how it happened. But then why he was shot, that is a completely different one that I'm not totally sure of. There are multiple different aspects to this assassination.
What's your theory?
There's the word theory again, as a speculation. My theory is either he was just about to blow the whistle on the group, the Beatles, which was a construct of the Tavistock Institute. I'm very sorry to say that. I loved the Beatles. But once you start looking into that whole operation, it is a massive, massive, massive thing that was there as part of changing the whole mindset of the young generation during the 60s, where we had the whole, from the very naive early 60s to sex, drugs, rock and roll, flower power, all of that within 5 years on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean, coordinated, I would strongly suggest, with Laura Canyon in the US, and you had the music scene in London. Yeah, but we can get back to that.
We'll definitely get into that and much more. Ola Dammegård is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We have him for another hour on this show, and we're going to continue to delve into some of these strange cases. We probably look at them completely the wrong way, but Ola's sitting there saying there is another side that you might want to investigate. This is Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. We'll be right back.
Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here. I got this for you.
Hey everybody, it's Dave Scott of Spaced Out Radio, and I want to let you know that we have some brand new swag at our Spaced Out Radio store on our website, spacedoutradio.com. Check these out. See, I told you there's no ugly swag, no ugly swag. You can wear our clothing out in public and be very proud of it. So go to spacedoutradio.com and get your new t-shirts and clothing today.
I am back. Hope you like that little video. That was kind of fun, isn't it? Bring Oli back in. There we go. How you doing, my friend? Still having fun?
Doing great.
What time is it there?
It is midday. I'm in the future, so I'm in tomorrow.
Okay, so I am alive tomorrow.
It seems like it. And I want to say the future is bright, by the way.
Nice. I always like to know if I make it to the next day. That's why I love my Aussie listeners.
Yeah, you just call me and I'll tell you.
For sure. We got about a minute and 20 seconds. All right. Thank you, Sally Elka. Appreciate you, my beautiful friend. Did you guys like the little promo there for the new swag? Barb Marley, how you doing?
That's another one for you, Bob.
Flower, how you doing? Welcome to SOR chat. I will do that, Firewater. I meant to make one of those today. All right, 20 seconds. Thank you tonight to Sally, Pam, T-Bone ×5 with the gifting of the memberships. And Kim, thank you for the love and support. Remember, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. No ugly swag, as you just saw. And here we go. Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. We got a great guest tonight, Ola Dammegard. We're going to get to him momentarily, but first we want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What is this? Obliviscence. Obliviscence is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night, right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's go to Ola Dammegard, our guest tonight, his website, lightonconspiracies.com. We're talking about singers, and right before the break, we were talking about the passing of John Lennon. It may not have been Mark David Chapman. It may have been somebody else. Oh, yes. Let's bring him back in. Ola, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you. And I tell you, Mark Chapman, if it was Mark Chapman, feel free to chop off my right arm. Absolute bullshit. Sorry, absolute BS. It is, there's not a true word at all. It's also, Dave, when you look at these cases, you have to see who can control the evidence, who can control the investigation, who can control the media, who can control the autopsy, who can control the police. All of these things you have to look in. If there is a cover-up, if something just doesn't add up the normal way, who has the power to do that? And that is not you or me. And so that will also lead you to look at who was actually cui bono, who benefited from this and who could control it. And so when you see that suddenly here, many of these cases, suddenly you can't access, there's no autopsy done, people are being cremated before they even go boom down, they're burned to ashes, so you can't find anything. The crime scene is redecorated or torn down. The investigation, the official narrative is there. Anyone questioning is suddenly being, harassed or whatever. These are signs that something is not right. And so these are the signs that I follow. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I would say that very often it leads back to the very, very same cancer growth that is really trying to hurt us. It's not big. It's not big, but it's very powerful. It's got tentacles in so many different areas.
What other famous passings should we look into a little bit more? I know that over the years, if you take somebody like Michael Jackson, that there was a lot more about that than what we know of.
Michael Jackson is a tricky one. I'm still not sure, but it's a very the official narrative, I don't buy at all, not at all. But what actually went down, I would put my money that he's still around. But you got like Bob Marley is one. You got like Jimi Hendrix is another one. You got very weird things around Jim Morrison. The whole Laurel Canyon thing is very, very important to understand. So if you want to, I can go into that area.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Okay, so the 60s was a very, very important 10 years where a lot of things were going on. You had the US were almost at civil war. There was this almost like a race war going on as well. And you had the Vietnam War that started right. Johnson, he signed the war before Kennedy was even buried almost. And so before that, it was not an American war at all. It was a French war in Indochina, in the Southeast Asia. But it's always been a drug war. So it has nothing to do with communism or all of these type of things. Absolutely nothing. It is a matter of drugs, trafficking, weapons, military-industrial complex making absolute billions. This is more or less the same for all of these wars that have been started in the name of freedom. Freedom, absolute. I mean, I don't know even how to say it. It's like these words have been so misused. That freedom, democracy, it's the exact opposite. Exact opposite. And they use the same template all the time. So anyway, so during the 60s, there was a lot of turmoil. And the military-industrial complex, one of the reasons why JFK was taken out was to get that war going, because it was making billions with drugs, weapons, all of these type of things. And so the thing is also, people think that wars cost money, yes, for the taxpayer, but it's actually the manufacturer of Bell's helicopters or bombs or ammo or weapons. They make a fortune. So the money doesn't go to, for instance, Vietnam and is wasted there. No, it stays there in the US, and it goes straight into the pocket from the taxpayers into the pocket of the ones manufacturing all of these things that are aimed to be blown up. The more they get blown up, the better for them. So anyway, so the last thing they wanted was sort of like for people to start trying to stop this war. So there was a whole massive operation, psychological operation going on in the 60s to divert the attention away from the assassination of JFK, Malcolm X, of Martin Luther King, Robert Kennedy, away from that, away from people daring to stand up and say, we don't want to go to war, we don't want to fight that. So how did they do that? And here is where so-called sex, drugs, and rock and roll is the key, the three key words in this manipulation. Because at least if I've understood it right, I mean, I put in many, many years in looking at this, and you will see there's a very similar development going on in the UK and in the US. And so it's easier to see it in the US than in the UK, but it happened at the exact same time. You had in the early 60s, the music scene was in New York, it was in Memphis, it was Nashville, these type of things. Nothing in Los Angeles. There was nothing whatsoever. There was hardly any clubs or anything like that. But in the early 60s, 64, 65, Frank Zappa moved to this tiny little place called Laurel Canyon. It's up in the mountains. It's a tiny little village. It's like, I don't know how many people live there. Not that many. Mountainous roads, bloom, bloom, bloom. But there he had a wooden big, they call it the cabin, but I mean, it was a massive big house. And out of nowhere, all of these future to-be rock stars started being pulled out of, like with a magnet, an invisible magnet was being pulled from all over. These people that later became the rock stars of the 60s. Anything from like people writing ballads like Joan Baez and the Monkees. You had, I'll come back to it. But many of them were being drawn in an invisible way to this tiny little place that then became the center for the whole sex, drugs, and rock and roll, including the hippie movement. The hippie movement was started in a house just down the road with 7 people, while this very, very odd person that was also connected to Frank Zappa, that they started that whole thing, and then they took it down on Sunset Boulevard and so on in LA, and that just spread the whole thing, and it became a global phenomenon, but from a tiny little point. Anyway, so all of these musicians came there. Many of them couldn't even play anything. They had never played before, and somehow they were equipped with instruments, with amplifiers, with lyrics many times, and backed by record companies like CBS and so on. These were officially dropouts. They were sort of like giving the finger to the rest of society, and it was rock and roll and sex and booze and all of that. None of them were drafted to the war, which is interesting again. And when you look at more or less every single one of these future rock stars, their family or parents came from within the military industrial complex or the US military, like Navy bases, many of them Navy bases that was connected to MK Ultra, or the intelligence community. More or less all of them, as far as I know, came from them. You have Crosby, Stills and Nash and other groups like that also. But all of them, they were pulled into this area. And from that tiny little place, you started seeing the whole explosion of what was called rock and roll. It just like exploded from there. And now we're finding out more and more that most of these bands didn't even play on their own records. There was like about 50 studio musicians that were playing on all of them, including the Beatles records. It's unbelievable. But the thing that really is interesting is that in the middle of this tiny little, almost like village, you had a military installation called the Lookout Mountain Air Force Base. It used to be an Air Force base during the Second World War, and then it was taken over by the CIA and turned into this underground, massive film studio that, according to most sources, produced more film than Hollywood together in total. I mean, I don't know how or where this film production, the result of that, where these films were shown, or if they were part of being, edited into other movie productions or whatever. But you had people like John Ford, the director. You had Marilyn Monroe had security clearance up there also, all kinds of stuff. And in the same little spot as all of these dropouts, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and then with this intelligence hub right in the center of it. And it was also from this hub where the whole LSD thing came from, the production of LSD that was given out for free in the thousands, tens of thousands of tablets were handed out at Woodstock, Monterey, these big music festivals. Who would benefit from something like that? Who would finance them giving this whole thing out? But this was the thing that in a very, very short time span completely turned society into, for instance, in Europe, where people were shocked by the haircut of Beatles, shocked. Okay, and then 5 years later, you had Lucy in the Sky of Diamonds, the whole flower power, acid rain thing in 5 years. It is unbelievable how fast that went. So I would strongly, you had also Timothy Leary with all the LSD, all of that was interconnected with these things. And so these rock stars that came out of there, you had Jim Morrison, whose father was actually on the big military ship that was the one that was officially being attacked at the Gulf of Tonkin, and which was the reason a false flag, I would strongly say, they've admitted it to it now, aimed attack on that military vessel, and that then gave the green light for the US to enter into the Vietnam War. That was his father, that was the admiral on that ship. And it's very interesting with Jim Morrison because both his father and him comes in on stage at the same time. Him as a singer in a rock band, his father as the head of this military vessel in the Gulf of Tonkin. And also they leave their position, Jim, official death, and his father on the very same day left his position as commander of this ship. So, and it's like with Jim Morrison, very, very interesting again, because he came with lyrics to Laurel Canyon, pre-written lyrics. Nobody ever saw him write lyrics or do any poetry or anything like that. He came with a finished stack of lyrics, and then it was put into music and so on. It's the same with the Beatles. It's unbelievable when you start really looking into it, how, like, for instance, you got the record Rubber Soul, and like they produced albums 70% faster than any other band alive at the time. 70%. They made, and it's like within 1 month, I believe it was like 11 different songs, finished, produced, album, record, all of it released. It's just like there's one of my friends, Mike Williams, and also another researcher called Mark Devlin have done incredible work when it comes to the Beatles. Also on my website, you can find a webinar where I go into extreme details about that whole group or band. I would call it operation, unfortunately, where you can clearly see that this is part of changing the mindset of especially the younger generation to look in a certain direction, away from politics, away from trying to make a difference, and into the whole sex, drugs, especially drugs, where people just got completely wasted and couldn't care less, and moved away from this whole thing. So, yeah.
Let me ask you, were a lot of the musicians, if they were in the know of what's going on, were they secretly writing these in their lyrics?
No, the only band that I've ever seen put clues in the lyrics is the Beatles, but that was John Lennon massively putting in, because one of the members had been replaced. Paul McCartney died in '66 and was replaced by another guy who's a lot taller. Once you start comparing them, I mean, they don't even look alike. But anyway, in that, it's a massive thing, David. I don't know if it's clever to get into this whole thing. But what I can say is that especially John felt very, very bad about this replacement, that they were fooling their fans and so on. Also because the whole construction of the Beatles, we've been told one thing, that there was this group of youngsters that met in Liverpool, they were schoolmates or whatever, and boom, they went to Hamburg, they did a lot of nightclubs there, and they came back and they were like this sensation, and the whole Beatlemania started, and then they were introduced to George Martin, this super producer, and boom, they got the Beatles. So not the way it happened. And I mean, they couldn't play, they were not good musicians, and still they delivered all of these songs that are unbelievably good and so advanced musically. It's like George Martin, the producer, I have interviews with him where he said, when I first met the Beatles, I thought they absolutely sucked. Quincy Jones, I mean, that's a musician for you. He said they were awful musicians. They had to, even on Ringo Starr's own record, they had to get rid of Ringo, get him out of the studio. Quincy Jones describing this whole thing, so that they could get, I think his name is Bertie Perkins, a black drummer, and he put down drums on at least 21 of the Beatles songs, like this whole thing, to get Ringo out, because he wasn't steady at all. It's just all over the place. So they had to sort of get him out of the studio, go have some lunch, and then while he was there, boom, they recorded all of these tracks. But when you look at, for instance, Rubber Soul, you will see that it is not physically possible to do what they did, because we're being told that during this month, all of this was done. Now we have the historical dates of when they went into the studio, when they did that, when they did that. But when you know the manufacturing steps of how to, it's not only to write the songs, which they also claim that they did in this time span, but the production, the choosing and what how should the songs, should that be the first song, the second song, should that be on the B side, should that be this, should that do that? The cover, the designs, also the printing and the label printing, and then the distribution. You will find that it's absolutely impossible on a logistic point of view to do it in the time span that we're being told. It would take like at least 3 times the time if these songs had not been pre-recorded in many ways, except for the lyrics. And it's also, I have the paper magazine cuttings and stuff from the 60s where it says that today George Martin, the producer, is bringing new songs to the studio for the Beatles to record. He's bringing these songs with him to the whole thing. And the more you look into the Beatles and also what was going on the other side of the Atlantic, you will find the Tavistock Institute in the background. The Tavistock Institute is very important to know about. Most people have no idea, but this is an institution where they are focusing on how to manipulate the mindset of populations into steering them in a specific direction. And so very, very important to find out these things. And then you will see, oh my God, that is where they were, not next door, where we were told they were in this nightclub. The Tavistock Institute is right next door. And then you will see also, like if you have documentaries, you can see how the Beatles were working, like this Get Back song. You can see they're working like a normal band. It takes time, you know, okay, if I play like that, if you do like this, what about if I do? It's time consuming. But we're being told that they made and recorded 2 songs at least per day and produce it. It's not possible. So these are the things I look for when it's just like, that makes no sense whatsoever. Something must be wrong. Why are they telling us lies? And then track that back and you start seeing, back to where I say Farmer Brown logic, 1 + 1 = 2. If they say 1 + 1 = 34, you have to say, I don't know why, but somebody's lying to me, because that is absolutely not true.
We got 2 minutes to go before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. In the next half hour, Oli, we're going to get to some audience questions regarding that. You know, I struggle with the Paul versus Paul conspiracy theory on that one. I really do on that one.
Yeah, so did I for many years. And did you see how you used the word conspiracy theory here again? So I completely agree, and I overlooked it for many years. I was very aware of it because it was a rumor already in '66. It spread right away. It was like a DJ in the US that started spreading this rumor that he had died in a car accident. So it was a massive big thing. And in the late '60s, many people was, going through the songs, trying to find hidden messages, and found loads. There's so many things. But the record company, they made a lot of money on it as well, because people destroyed their records by playing them backwards and so on, trying to find stuff. So they sold even more. So it was good for business. But the thing is, with George and Paul, or Fall, as he's called by the other members, you will see once you start really looking into it and comparing the two, they don't even look alike. The guy, Fall, is like half a head taller. It's like everything is just different, but you have to put them next to each other. And it's not only that, but like there's many interviews with Fall where he talks about Paul in third person, and he says, he was considering, what can I say, what are the benefits of being Paul, and then he decided, there was more benefits being Paul, because he had to give up his whole life before. And also, you'll see in my presentation at lightonconspiracies.com, the Beatles webinar,
right?
That I break it down, and you can hear for yourself in many interviews. He's talking about himself he's saying, I can't even imagine how it must feel to be Paul. I'm just like this guy, imagining playing this guy.
Hold that thought. We're going to go to break here. We have a half hour left with Ole Dammegard.
to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we got about 5 minutes here. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
A lot of questions about what kind of guitar is that on your wall? Is that a PRS?
It's actually a Canadian built. It's a Larry Wee.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. I mean, you're in Canada. I love it. It's been mine for some 30 odd years. So
beautiful color.
Thank you. It was all the money I had, I put into that one back in the 80s. So
yeah, looks beautiful.
Thank you.
Looks beautiful. So what's your plan for the rest of the day after this?
We're in the process of creating what we call Selalu, a neighborhood for light-minded people, light-minded, not like-minded, light-minded friends here in Bali, where we're in the middle of building a project. It's going to be about 30 houses in this valley up on a mountainside here in Bali, where we're sort of in the center. We don't have the money to do it ourselves, but we are now in the process big time of inviting people in from around the world. There's like what we call it an alignment process, because we need people that are on the same side as us, big heart, small egos under control, and that wants to do good, be good, and share good things with the world and the local population here also. So we have this vision. I can send you the video. We call it Selalu, which means always in Indonesian, and it is to create this neighborhood, not a community, not a gated anything. This is like a neighborhood, so that now if I want to come and have a coffee with you, I have to travel like forever and ever. Instead, I can just go down the road to Dave and have a coffee, because with people on the same level of integrity and creativity and all of these beautiful things, when you bring them together without big egos, incredible things happen. It's like a firework of creativity. I've seen it happen again and again. And I've also seen how communities with a lot of rules die. So we're trying to we're doing something different. So we live and breathe Selalu at the moment.
Oh, wow. Well, that sounds like an interesting time.
It is. We have absolutely no clue what we're doing, and we feel, but we are with there's this team that is coming together, amazing people, and we've had horrible experiences before with builders and stuff like that. So we really know what to look out for. But this time it feels right, and so we have people here who have also been here for 40 years and who've been doing a lot of these stuff together. So without them, we would never do it. And without us, they would never do it either. So we're sort of bringing the best of the best of the best from around the world into this little valley. It's a bit like Laurel Canyon, but of incredible people that will want to lift the world.
And here, I'm just going to sleep after this.
Okay.
Well, then again, it'll be like, I don't know, midnight here in about 90 minutes. Yeah. So.
But I already slept that night that you are going into, so.
Yes. Fun time.
I'm coming to you from the future.
I love it. All right. We have about a minute to go here. If you have audience questions, please put them in capital letters. I would appreciate that. Dave's eyes don't work that well on lowercase. Looks all blended together.
I know the feeling.
Thank you tonight to the return of Jenny White Bear. Thank you for the super chat, my dear. Kim T-Bone times 5 memberships. Thank you, T-Bone. Pam Harris and Sally Elka. Very much appreciate your love. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Nice to see you. And remember, we do not have ugly swag, so go shop at our Spaced Out Radio store on our website. We'd greatly appreciate it. And we're coming back in 10 seconds. Here we go. We're into the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Before we bring back Holy Dammegard, we want to remind all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. All right, let's bring him back in. We have Ole Dammegard with us, his website, lightonconspiracies.com, if you want to check it on out. We got some great audience questions coming at you here, Ole, so thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for inviting me, Dave. And please, if anybody is like, oh my God, this guy is all over the place, please notice that I've been interviewed more than 1,300 times. They're all on my website, lightonconspiracies.com, where I break down every single case in extreme detail. So if you're interested in any of these cases or about 1,000 other ones, please go to my website and then see for yourself. Because when you scratch on the surface of the so many different cases that we're doing now, I can completely understand if it sounds like, well, that he's... So please, lightonconspiracies.com.
All right. Start off with Paramarv here. Why would James Files come forward to tell you he was the shooter of JFK? What was his motivation? Who is he working for?
Okay, so James Files is the shooter from the grassy knoll, and he didn't come forward to me. He didn't come forward to anyone. He was a man that was born into like a super soldier program. He was born in 1942 in Alabama. His mother signed up. She was poor and signed up to be inseminated in one of these operations where the intelligence agencies were trying to create super soldiers, just like Hitler on this side. They were doing a similar thing, and often with the very same scientists that was connected to Operation Paperclip later. But anyway, so he was born into, he never went to a normal school. He never went to high school. From day one, from a very early age, he was being trained as an assassin. He and I think there were about 100 children, many of them died, but otherwise than that, were in this program. So he has been, over the years, let me rephrase because there's a question here. There was absolutely no reason for him to come forward. He had been keeping this as a secret. He was like one of multiple shooters that day. And so for him, it was of no benefit for himself. He has no remorse for shooting Kennedy. For him, it was like he said, it was like taking out the trash. He couldn't care less. He has no remorse at all. And he has, over the years, killed about 1,000 people. So this is like a Mission Impossible, but real type guy. He is the real deal. And he's been in so many different operations around the world, many times connected to George Bush Sr. and this Group 40, where he was part of finding and killing Che Guevara down in Bolivia, together with Felix Rodriguez, who is another key person in this Operation 40. He was in Santiago de Chile when Allende committed suicide, and they did the overthrow and put Pinochet there. He was in Laos, he was in Vietnam. He was the one that delivered the explosives when they blew up Orlando Lettier in Washington, D.C. on Embassy Row. He was, this guy, his life is unbelievable. He's been very, very productive. He worked for the Chicago mob and the CIA at the same time. So he was always on standby, where he had the very same handler or controller as Lee Harvey Oswald and several other of these agents, David Atlee Phillips, key person in many of these operations. And so anyway, in the 90s, he had been put away for a thing that he hadn't done. It's almost hysterical, because he did so much other stuff, but this one he was put away for, he was innocent too. But anyway, he spent I think about 25 years, I believe, inside prison. It's something like that. And it was inside prison where Jesus came to him, believe it or not, but this is a hardened murderer, a hardened killer. So for him to change, who could do that? According to James Files, Jesus came to his cell one day and said, listen, you have to change. There's another chapter for you. You have to change. And Jesus came twice to him and said the very same thing, which turned his life upside down, because suddenly it was very hard for him to be in this world of violence. And at the same time, also, he was approached by a researcher called Joe West, who wanted to excavate JFK's body to show that there was actually mercury inside his skull, because that was the type of ammo that James Files had used when he shot JFK. At that time, Joe West was not aware that James Files was one of the killers. But anyway, Joe West was really pushing for this whole thing. He became close friends with James Files after a long time. James Files started to trust him. And then Joe West, when he started making too much fuss, was killed. He died after an operation where there was no need to him to die at all. There was no need for that. They took him out. If you ask me, if you ask Files, if you ask anyone else, he was murdered to stop him. After that, James Files, who's a man of extreme honor, I must say, mass murderer, extreme honor, he wanted to stand up in the memory of Joe West, and also for his widow, and really stand up. So he took a step forward and was interviewed by Jim Morris, if you know about him, a legend in the JFK movie, and other people also, one of my friends from Holland, who interviewed him. And in these interviews from 94 or 5 or 6 or something like that, he describes what actually happened for no benefit of himself inside a high security prison, where he could be taken out at any day against these agencies that could take him out anytime. At least they tried many times. So that's when he did it. And so to start with, I heard about him in the early 2000 or something like that. To start with, it didn't make any sense to me at all. And then I started really listening to him, and every single thing that he's ever said, I have not been able to find something that was not correct, except for what he was paid for the assassination. He was paid $30,000, but he got money for several different assassinations in the same envelope. Anyway, that's the only thing. And I've been to Dallas. I've been tracking down his path, exactly how he walked and went and all of these things. And never, ever have I found anything not true. So after a few years, because nobody was listening to him, it's unbelievable. He's like this, I would say, the most important witness of modern times. If you listen to him, you will find out he was part of the Chippewa when they set up Ted Kennedy. He was the guy that drove the car into the river while E. Howard Hunt suffocated the girl, and Frank Sturgis. These three were the ones, all of them connected to Group 40 or Operation 40. They did that one. I mean, so many of them. He was also part of the Iran-Contras thing, where he was one of the pilots flying raw cocaine into the US, starting the whole crack epidemic. He was just one of them. Barry Seals was another one that is now portrayed by Tom Cruise in this movie called American Made or whatever. So James Files had no reason to do it, and he did. I started early on seeing that, oh my God, this guy is for real. So I've done everything to back him. I got him on media shows and so on, where I put my trustworthiness on at risk but I stood up for this guy, and I still do it. He's 83 now. He's in a very bad health situation. But that guy, also people close to me have approached Donald Trump to let him speak freely, give testimonial, and but not at all. I tell you, anyone like Donald Trump in his situation, if he really wanted the truth out here, that's the guy that would get it. But it's on the exact opposite. It's just being shut down. So long answer to a short question.
Let's get to another question here. And I love that answer, by the way. Let's go to unknown. Besides Alan Dulles, who I think was the main conspirator, who else do you think could have planned this?
Oh my God, it's a massive operation. It is massive. And it's so compartmentalized and on so many different levels. So you can't even say that one of the main conspirators, yeah, he was a bad dude to say the least. And he was deeply, deeply involved in it. But he was one of the players on a certain level. There were so many others on. So you have to say on a street level, on a government level, on an elite level, so I can say 100% Alan Dulles, he was massively involved, yes, and so was his brother. But otherwise than that, he was not one of the main. Oh, he was important, that's for sure. So I can't really answer that question.
All right, let's move on. Let's get to Joe's question here. I like this one. Oli, have you ever looked into the theory that John Wilkes Booth got away? The body they pulled out of the barn does not match John Wilkes Booth?
No, I have not, but I tell you, I would not be surprised. I mean, very few things surprises me nowadays when it comes to these type of things. I know that 8 people were executed for this assassination. And so there's still a lot of fog around this. I have a friend of mine who's really looked deeply into it. I did an interview with him a few months ago. I'm sorry, I forgot his name, on my website as well, on the Abraham Lincoln assassination. So please check that one out instead, because he knows a lot more than I do.
All right, let's go to another.
I'll tell you very, very often, sorry, there's other, when people have assassinated or try to assassinate presidents, they end up in graves and then they put lime on the body. Why would they, why do they do that? So that the body cannot be identified afterwards. So many times there's this, because also assassination attempts is one very, very powerful tool to add popularity to the one that was the target of the assassination, who was standing up for freedom and democracy. Look at that one. Look at the alleged assassination attempt against dear Donald Trump. You will see a massive, massive psychological operation. Please go to my website, lionandconspiracy.com. I've got 2 webinars that I break it down. I tell you, if you believe the official narrative after watching these ones, and once again, I have no interest in pushing anything on anyone. I'm just saying, look at the different pieces of the puzzle and you will find a completely different picture than the official narrative.
All right, let's move on to another one here. T-Bone is asking, why do they hide these conspiracies in plain sight?
I'm not really sure what he means by that, but I would say that one of the reasons is the thing that I said before about the law of karma, that they're very afraid of it, that they show us, but not. They have to show us. It's the same if you look at all different old stories, and it's always like evil has to show itself. Evil has to knock on the door, and then it's up. If we open the door, then we just have to blame ourselves. But also hiding in plain sight is often the best place to hide it, because the bigger the lie, the easier it is for people to believe it. The bigger the lie, if you just keep repeating the lie over and over and over again, people start believing it. They said, no, but you couldn't lie about a thing like that. You couldn't. Yes, they do.
I don't normally talk about this subject, but I will because it's been in the news recently. recently Tucker Carlson did a 5-part series on 9/11. I'm not sure if you saw it or not. It was, I highly recommend watching it. And we know the story about what happened that day. We were all, the people listening were pretty much all alive when that happened. That would, be our modern day Pearl Harbor. But there are still so many questions. In the end, Tucker really stated that this was something that was a lot more sinister than what we really believed, and he focused in on Building 7. Your thoughts on Building 7 and the whole event?
It's a big question. Building 7, controlled demolition, boom. I think the reason they took down Building 7 in the afternoon, many hours later, was because it was used as the headquarters for the operation, complete inside job, where many of the people that have been part of, the buildings were taken down with so many different types of technologies. It was never, ever has anything like that been done in the world. So they could not fail. They could not afford to fail. So they were using all kinds, including thermite, including controlled demolition, including directed energy weapons, including things that we've never heard about, I think, because these buildings were dustified. They were turned into dust. And you got the Brookhaven National Laboratory, Brookhaven National Laboratory. That, I think, is one of the main sources for the energy that was used to dustify these buildings. So it was a complete inside job, had nothing to do with the Middle East, had nothing to do with planes, had nothing to do with all of these things. But I believe that Building 7, the people that were part of assembling the controlled demolition part of it, because they were working there for weeks on different levels, all of them, the reason we have found no whistleblowers or no one coming forward that is because I believe they were invited over to Building 7, to the headquarters where all of it was being observed from, right in front of these two, the main towers that went down. And then to get rid of all evidence, including the bodies of these people that were involved, and that these different teams that have carried out this work, all of them went down in Building 7. So Building 7 was just like, the old pirates, when the captain and two pirates went to some island and they had a casket of gold and some shovels, and then they buried the treasure, and before they filled up the hole, boom, boom, the captain shot both of them and then filled the hole with them, exactly the same way.
It is a weird story, and
it is the way. No, sorry to interrupt you. It is massive. It is so multi-layered that there's so many different things happening on that day. So you can't say yes, the buildings went down. No, it's so much bigger. It is unbelievably big. But I would say, wouldn't it be better, instead of arguing about how did they get the towers to come down, wouldn't it be better to look into who had the possibility and the power and the weaponry that can do such a thing, and then look for where are they today? Because the very same people that carried that out, they didn't stop. They're still doing a lot of bad stuff to us.
And one of the things that Tucker brought up, and I didn't even know this, I probably heard it, but kind of rushed it through like we do with a lot of news, was that as they were removing the rubble, they were immediately before the investigators even had a chance to look at it, they were shipping the rubble right out of the country to different locations for meltdown and garbage, basically.
But Dave, that's what I'm saying. Who controls the crime scene? Who controls it? Who controls the investigation? Who controls that the police, in this case, allowed that? I mean, it was a crime scene of mass murder that the world had never seen anything like it before. And it was being shipped out before the fires were even turned out. It was chopped. Many of these pillars that was left was already through thermothermic, what is it called? cut in pieces that were perfect to put on these trailers and transported out. It was prepared to transport out all of the things that could show that something really ugly happened here, instead of the official narrative that is like a ridiculous. The whole NIST report. I tell you, Dave, okay, if you believe the official narrative with the pancake thing or the plane, that the fire from the plane did that, these buildings were constructed to take impact by earthquakes, storms, planes. Okay, so there was even a plane earlier on that hit the buildings. It hardly made a mark. So I tell you, if you take an airplane, it's made mostly of aluminum. It's mostly empty. It's got like at least two big engines of titanium, whatever, 6 ton, whatever. But otherwise than that, it's more or less an empty tube with some gas fuel, jet fuel. Otherwise than that, not a lot going on. So if you make a similar experiment, you take like a Coca-Cola can, empty it, boom, that would be more or less the same material as in the body of an airplane. You fill that with jet fuel, you turn the jet fuel on fire, the jet fuel, you take it and you smash it against a concrete wall. If that concrete wall dustifies, so the only thing that is left, not armored irons, anything like this, big steel, whatever, if it dustifies, then the official narrative makes sense. Otherwise, then that is pure BS on steroids. These buildings went down free fall speed. What does that mean? It means that there's no friction whatsoever. If you have a pancake thing, it will go boom and then slower, slower, slower because of friction. Here we see, had you dropped a bowling ball from the top, it would have landed at the very same speed as the building. The buildings were dustified. They became dust. How is that possible? Where all the furniture, all the telephones, all the office chairs, all the cabinets, file cabinets, the clothes, all of it were dustified. Who can do something like that? Who has the weaponry? Who has the technology that can do anything like that? And you will see it's very, 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 very few, if more than one, that can accomplish it.
It is very interesting. And I don't
this whole thing of,
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, but this whole thing about 9 people from the Middle East, 19, where 9 of them were still active pilots several years afterwards, they didn't even die. And like that none of they learned to fly with a VHS cassette, come on. It's sort of like, many years ago, I was sitting in this very chair, and my daughter, who was at that time 4 years old, she came running in and she said, "Hi, Dad, what are you doing?" And I was watching the towers go down. I was re-watching it for the 1,000th time or something. And I said, "I'm doing adult stuff." And she said, "Tell me." So I explained to her the official narrative of how these 2 buildings went down. And she looked at me, she said, "Dad, I'm a child. I'm not stupid. Why are you lying to me?" So I'm telling you, that is the mind of a 4-year-old, but not sort of messed up in their mind of how to think or whatever. She just thought, no, that's not possible. And then she went off playing. And here we are 20, I don't know how many years later, and people are still, was it this or was it that? No, it's like, come on. Like when people are talking about brainwashing, I think that's a very healthy thing. Wash our brains. It's been so packed with crap. We need to rinse it, give it a really good rinse, let go of all of the things that is just blocked up there as concrete, and start making it work again. Brainwashing, they hijacked that word. I think it's a beautiful word, because we need to get back to like logical seeing, like just because somebody in a white robe tells you stuff, question it.
Only Dammegard, everybody. We're definitely going to look to bring him back on again. So interesting. Thank you, Oli.
Thank you.
Swamp Dweller kicks off hour 3 next.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
That was fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And if you ever want me back on, let me on. Whatever case, I mean, my head is like in the thousands of different cases. So wherever you want to go.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
You
That
have a
was
good
so
one.
much fun. You have a
And
good
don't get-
afternoon, okay?
That I will. And don't get
Take
eaten
care.
by a grizzly.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, Dammegård, everybody. I'll be right back. Let's bring in the beautiful, the lovely, the talented Katie Page. There she is.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are.
Right. Good to have you here.
It's nice to be here.
I put up a video on TikTok. and it accidentally loaded twice of the snow that was falling the other day. It was like a freaking blizzard here.
I happened to catch that.
It's got like 30,000 views.
Isn't that something?
I'm like, where the hell did this come from? You know,
Lately, I've been watching videos that get like millions of views, and they're of people playing instruments to animals, to cows. I just watched the orchestra playing orchestra music to the giraffes at the Denver Zoo.
I like that.
I know. And they get millions of views. People like me are like, wow, this is fascinating.
Fascinating. Totally. Totally. All right. We got about 40 seconds. Big thank you to Jenny Whitebear and her great return to our chat room. It's been months. Sally Elka, Pam Harris, T-Bone, gifting 5 memberships. And Kimberly, thank you very much for your love and support. Love it. Very much appreciate it. And yeah, we get to play Katie's song tonight. Yes, we do. Thurston Howell III, how's Lovey? Give us an update. Yeah, it's all melted now, by the way, the snow, that is. Here we go. Hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. We have Swamp Dweller, Katie Page, and the Weird News of the Week coming on up. My name is Dave Scott. I'm happy to be here. I love talking these topics to you each and every night, and I hope it makes you scratch your head and say, every now and again. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Let's find it here. It is Obliviscence. Obliviscence is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. This story happened when I was around 11 or 12 years old, and I was finally on summer break. Me and my best friend, who I've met on the internet, made plans for me to stay at their place for the weekend. She lived in a city about 2.5 hours away from me, but I have met her before in real life, so everything was fine. On that day, I took the train by myself, which was not a new experience for me, since my mom let me have a lot of freedom and experience. I texted my friend the time and place I'd arrive, but that city was huge, so I got the name of the station mixed up, which led her going to somewhere else instead of where I was. But at the time, I obviously didn't know. So, when I arrived, I just took my suitcase and went to a quiet corner to wait for her while watching all the busy people running from A to B. My friend texted me asking where I was, and after some more text, we figured out that it was my fault for telling her the wrong station, but she was on the way to pick me up. After waiting for a few minutes, a man in his 30s accidentally bumped into me, even though I was just standing still. He apologized 1,000 times. I assured it was fine and nothing happened, but he insisted on making it up to me and wanted to buy me a hot chocolate or something to eat. I refused, but I was also a pretty shy girl back then, and wasn't taken seriously many times. He seemed pretty frustrated at this point, and decided to just grab my hand and try to drag me with him. Only then, I realized that his intentions were not good, and I felt super scared. No one else around seemed to notice what was going on, but like a miracle, my friend just arrived on time and came straight to me. I was calling her name, which made the guy realize I wasn't alone anymore. So he took off as fast as he could without saying anything. So I hope that creep from the train station who tried to abduct me never tried to abduct anybody else.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another creepy story. If you want more just like that, head on over to his YouTube channel, Swamp Dweller. Hit subscribe, ring that bell. He's got thousands of stories for you to listen to each and every night. It's that time of the night. I love it when I get to play this. Here's Katie Page.
From the Rocky Mountains, here comes Katie Page. Only on Space Out Radio. Katie will creep us, get us. Time for neon SORC counters.
From the beautiful Rocky Mountains of Colorado, here she is, researcher, author, and downright awesome person, Katie Page, with the encounters. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. I hope everybody is too.
It is always awesome to have you here. And how you been? It's been a week.
It's been a week. I'm doing really good. The weather's been beautiful, not a cloud in the sky most days. So I saw you got some snow. And it's that time of year, but we've been lucky so far. We've only had one snow so far.
It is something that I am, how can I put it? It's almost time to put a hoodie on. Okay. Where I live, it's almost time to put a hoodie on. And, you know, it just doesn't get much colder than that at this time of year. And it always seems around Halloween, we get an early snow just to kind of forewarn us about what's happening and what's coming.
Right.
So it is what it is, but you know, we could still make our way through the snow and have some fun there as well. So,
well, speaking of snow and
dramatic
thereof, yeah. Speaking of snow and that,
because literally the snow is melted. It's already melted.
Right. Good thing. But speaking of snow and lack thereof snow, you know, we're doing the obscure UFO encounters brought to you by UFO Dex. Ryan was UFO Dex. Please go to his website, check it out. And if you have any particular questions you'd like to ask about this topic, it's a good place to go. And you get really specific answers back through his huge collection that is really UFO, paranormal, encrypted based. Mostly UFOs, but there are the paranormal cryptid stories and the mutilations as well. So this week we are going to the warm state of California. And California is really known for the Battle of LA that happened in February of 1942. But I'm looking for those not so well-known cases. And going through the UFO decks, there are some weird, interesting ones out of California. So we're going to be talking a couple blob case stories and metallic kind of robotic aliens. So a lot of fun stuff in California. And we're going to start with a case from 1953 known as the Brush Creek Little Man and Water Collectors case. And I thought this was interesting. Well, first of all, I thought it was funny. So for both Manitoba, which we're going to get to in a little bit, and California, the first cases start on my birthday. So this happened to take place on May 20th, 1953. Now, of course, that's not the year of my birth, but May 20th is my birth date. I share a birthday with Cher. Isn't that awesome?
That's awesome.
That's awesome. I always like Cher. Bob Dylan? You share a birthday with Bob Dylan?
I do.
See, look at that. People are talking about Bob Dylan and Cher. You didn't know that, but that's what's going on. Anyway, okay, so this happened on May 20th, 1953. The witnesses are John Q. Black and John Van Allen. They're titanium miners. And while they're working at their mine, Black and Van Allen encountered a small disc-like shaped craft near the mine shaft. They were diminutive beings described as little men. They emerged and scooped up water from the creek in a shiny pail and returned to the craft. The being was described as about 3 feet tall with a large head and wearing a tight-fitting suit. The craft then took off silently. And the description on this one I like because so many cases we hear, we have these little beings or aliens coming out and, testing the water, or they're around water, or they're testing the soil, different aliens with tools. that kind of thing. So I like this little case here. It's kind of a fun little case. Now, this one's really cute too. I had to include this because we are getting into the holidays and the holiday spirit. This one is called The Elf on Christmas Morning. And I believe this one came from Preston Dennett's book, actually. This was in San Gabriel, California. This happened early morning, Christmas morning. So basically Christmas Eve night in 1957. This this wasn't from Preston Dennett. This was a letter written to Whitley Strieber from a little child. And it says, a 7-year-old child awoke in the early morning hours, paralyzed in bed, and saw a small cream-colored creature on the front porch.
Wow.
I know. He said that while the thought was Santa's elves at first. He thought it was Santa's elves. The being was about 3 or 4 feet tall, and the child felt a loving parental telepathic message telling him to go back to sleep. The experience was so vivid that the child ignored Christmas presents in favor of searching for evidence on the porch. So he's like, forget the presents. I got to go find proof of this little cream-colored. Now, that's something we don't hear very often, a cream-colored little alien being. So I thought that was a sweet little story.
Are we sure it wasn't an elf? I got to tell you a little Dave story. If we could go back in time.
Okay.
When I was about 5 years old, it was Christmas Eve, and I remember my parents saying, go to bed or Santa won't come. You know what I'm saying? I think we all got told that you got to go to sleep so Santa Claus can come. And I remember being in my room, and I can hear my parents, they got company over, and they're all laughing and, doing what parents do, loud. And I remember going to my bedroom window, and this would have been what? I was 5, so that would have been about 1978. And I remember looking out my window, and way off in the distance in the sky, there was a red light in the sky.
Nuh-uh.
And now, logically, it was probably an airplane coming out of Vancouver, because I lived east of Vancouver, and the flight line going east was kind of along that route. Okay. But in my mind, that was Rudolph's nose.
Yes, of course.
And I actually remember to this day, I remember having a panic attack that I wasn't asleep, and here's Santa's flying by. And I'm going to miss it because I'm not going to get any gifts because I'm not asleep.
Oh, no.
And I was just like, oh, my goodness. Yes, I know what this kid is feeling like in wanting to investigate.
That's why I love this story, because whether you celebrate Christmas or not, we all remember that feeling when you were a child and you're so excited either about a family trip or a party or Christmas or whatever celebration you celebrate. That childlike wonder is just kind of what I got brought to when I read this little tiny case here. I'm like, oh, how cute is that? So yeah, I wish we can still have those feelings, but it's kind of sucky being an adult, isn't it?
No,
anyway.
I'll be honest with you. I have refused. I'm 52. And I have refused to give up on Santa Claus.
That's good.
I refuse. I
absolutely. You know what they say about Albert Einstein? They studied his brain, and parts of his brain were very childlike. He retained that childhood wonder of discovery. And I think that's important that we all hold on to any ounce of that we can have, any laughter, any joy, any wonder, especially now in this crazy world we're living in. So Good for you, Dave. Good for you. We're doing that. Well, speaking of childhood wonder, robots, right? I love the robots because of Tubi Guy and Rocky Mountain Ranch. So I'm always looking for correlating cases to that. But this one's called the Cisco Grove Robot Encounter. This was in Cisco Grove near Truckee, California, September 4th and 5th, 1964. It says, while bow hunting with friends, Donald became lost in the woods and decided to spend the night in a tree for safety. So I'm assuming he meant like one of those tree hammocks, perhaps. I don't think he just like crawled up there and stayed in the tree. I don't know, maybe in the 60s. I don't know. Anyway, as darkness fell, he observed a strange light maneuvering through the forest. The light approached, revealing itself in a domed metallic object. What followed was a night of terror. He was besieged by a group of bizarre entities, including 2 humanoid robot figures with glowing eyes and a smaller, more organic-looking being. So they were together, which is interesting because that's the same thing that's reported at the ranch. The robots attempted to gas him out of the tree with a vapor emitted from their mouths. Have you ever heard of any such a thing like this? And
Nope.
reported losing consciousness. And he reported losing consciousness multiple times. He defended himself by throwing objects and even setting his own clothes on fire to ward off the entities. The ordeal lasted until dawn, after which the beings and the craft departed. And there he was, stark naked with burned clothing. And I mean, I've never heard of such a thing. That is really interesting case.
That is very, very eerie.
Yeah, that's eerie. And then after that one, so right after that in 1970s, in the early 70s in the Semi Valley, this one's called the Hairy Robot and Triangular UFO. So this happened October 1st, early 1970s. The exact year isn't specified. But the witnesses observed a huge, hairy, robot-like creature walking mechanically with its hands upraised and a large rounded head, and an egg-shaped UFO, there's that egg-shaped UFO again, was also seen during a thunderstorm, and imprints were found in the area. That's interesting. The UFO was described as a triangular object, and that's also fascinating because when we think of there was an egg-shaped, egg-shaped UFO, and then it's described as a triangular craft. So was there 2 craft? I don't know. I just noticed that right now. That's kind of interesting. But with the triangular craft, I don't hear a lot of abductions with triangular craft. Do you?
No, they seem to be more observers.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know there's a few, but it's less common. Anyway, so this triangular object was 30 by 50 feet. Maybe the egg-shaped craft came out of the triangle one. I don't know. With an 8-foot hose dangling from the bottom and a clear bubble on top. Well, the hose is interesting because in the Snippy case, there was a sighting of a craft that had this like a hose coming from it as well. So you do see that from time to time. Also kind of rare. So those two kind of went together. Now we're going to get into these blob creatures. The Dapple Gray Lane blob encounter from Palos Verdes in 1970s again. The Dapple Gray Lane, Palos Verdes, California. John Hodges. Now this is an interesting question for you. He was a UFO investigator that experienced this. Do you think that makes him more credible or less credible, or it doesn't matter?
Tough one to say.
I know. I kind of agree. I'm like, I don't know. Anyway, so John Hodges, who is a UFO investigator, experienced a bizarre encounter near his home in Palos Verdes. While driving late at night, he and a friend saw 2 blob-like creatures in the road. These entities were described as amorphous, so just a blob, semi-transparent, and glowing with a bluish light. As Hodges approached, the blob seemed to project a vision or hologram into his mind, showing him scenes of environmental destruction and warning him about humanity's future. We hear that a lot. The experience was so strange that Hodges initially doubted his own sanity, but the physical effects, including, what were the physical effects? Sense of paralysis and missing time, convinced him something extraordinary had occurred. So that same message that we hear, and we've heard this for decades now, take care of our planet, doom and gloom's coming, 3-Eye Atlas. Wasn't it supposed to be close today, like the closest it's going to be? I thought maybe we'd get a big landing. I'm a little disappointed.
We should kind of talk about that for a quick second here.
I'm disappointed.
Okay. All of the fake video and photographs coming up that this is a UFO. I want to believe. You know me. I want to believe that this is a UFO.
It's a comet.
But I was looking at one and it looks so fake, and a source inside NASA slipped this to me. And No, they didn't.
I know.
No, they didn't. That's not how the game works. You know, and
I'm like you. I want to believe too. I want something to come land. How finally, yay! There. No, it's a comet. And what disturbs me though is just all the hype around it and all the disinformation and I don't know. It's gonna be nothing.
NASA. I blame NASA for being stupid again. I do.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Yeah. So anyway, all right. So then another blob entity. So I haven't heard very many of these blob entities. So I thought it was interesting that we had a couple. And this is actually, it says, this is in the same area, which is also fascinating. The Palos Verdes underwater base. So there's a supposed underwater base. So maybe these blob entities are living under this base near the Santa Catalina Canal off the coast of Southern California. It says this is multiple witnesses and this is still ongoing. I had not heard of this before. Numerous witnesses, including military personnel, have reported seeing UFOs entering and exiting the ocean, as well as these glowing blob entities, both in the water and on the land. Some reports describe these entities as jellyfish-like and resembling living plasma. There are persistent rumors of underwater bases in the area supported by sonar anomalies and repeated sightings. Now, this reminded me of these sightings that are going on both coasts here of these lights under the water, under our oceans. And there's multiple lights. Have you seen this, Dave? These reports?
I have not seen this encounter. No, this is new to me.
Oh, yeah. So look it up. All across the East Coast and the West Coast, people are seeing just lights under the water. And it's very mysterious. And there's hundreds of these on both sides. So this is what that reminded me of. And this is ongoing right now.
What if you're in Canada and you have 3 oceans?
Yeah. I wonder if you're seeing it out there as well. Have you been watching the news lately? We don't watch it much here either.
The news doesn't report anything on UFOs.
That's true. That is true. Okay, do we have time for one more California case here?
2 minutes. We got 2 minutes.
Gosh. Okay, 2 minutes. Okay, we'll do the Panorama City, the Floating Grays abduction of 1974. This is in Panorama City, Los Angeles, California, summer of 1974. Lori Boggs and her roommate, Joe, were awakened by a strange whining noise and white lights flashing in their apartment. Several short, thin, hairless beings with large heads and powerful eyes entered through their closed door. Floating about a foot above the floor, Briggs was levitated out of bed and floated into another egg-shaped craft in a nearby field where she underwent a bizarre medical examination involving pink lights and a sensation that her blood was light, like her blood was lit up. The beings communicated telepathically, and Briggs was eventually returned to her bed. So an abduction story there. Maybe it was the blobs.
The good old abduction story. See, that's what I crave. That's what I crave. I love a good abduction story. They're so creepy and scary. How about you? You like a good abduction story?
I do like a good abduction story. I don't know why we don't hear more of them. Because if there's that many types of ETs visiting our planet, goodness knows they're taking people. Maybe we don't hear about them because they're not bringing them back.
You know what? I will say this. In the 10 years, almost 11 years that I've been doing this show, we really have seen a real drop in alien encounters, like really high quality ones. Maybe that's because of social media. Maybe it's because of people clamming up a little bit more, but I could tell you this, it's not the same as it once was. I'm going to get you to hold on right there, Katie Page. We have her for another 15 minutes on Spaced Out Radio. When we return from the break, then we'll get to the weird news of the week to wrap up this show.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
Big fan of yours, Katie Page. Big fan.
Right back at you.
I know. I know. We got 5 minutes.
All right. All right.
I think your segment's way better than my Dave 101. I really do.
I don't know about that.
No, it is.
An echo going on. Echo, echo, echo.
Yeah, I noticed that. I don't know where it's coming from.
That's wild. Let me turn down my sound.
Yeah.
Right now,
Testing 1, 2.
it just started. My house has been unusually quiet lately. I was gifted a clearing, because people are concerned about the time I spend at the Rocky Mountain Ranch. So I was gifted a clearing. It took 5 hours. It was from a wonderful woman in Mexico who did this thing online. And ever since then, it's been quiet. So I think she's good at what she does. And part of me is like, bring him back. Isn't that horrible to say? But it's like kind of weird. It's quiet.
Yeah. I've been going between you and me and our audience. I've been going a little stir crazy that I haven't been able to get up to Flight 21.
Oh.
Because I won't go up there alone. It's too
Smart.
dangerous. Especially this time of year. Like, this is the danger time of year up there. Not because of weather, but because of the animals.
Yeah.
And not being able to go up there as frequently as I was. It's been very difficult for me.
Well, it's kind of addicting when you get to interact with the phenomenon. As scary as it can be sometimes, it's like, okay, it helps. Like, okay, I'm not crazy. This is going on. This is real. I have other witnesses. I want to know more. I want to learn more. I want to figure this out. I mean, at least that's how I am. And I'm excited. On the 14th of next month, I will be spending the night at the Rocky Mountain Ranch. We're going to be doing some experiments. Trey Hudson told me some experiments to do. So we're going to be doing that, and I'll report back to you what happens.
Right.
Yeah. Be interesting.
I got a beautiful email today from one of our listeners, Graham in the UK, because I've been battling my depression pretty hard lately. So he says, I should read this for the entire audience. Just a quick email from the distant UK to wish you the best of health and hope you can find the strength to get back to your old self and your family. We're all sorry that you're struggling. You haven't sounded yourself for a little while, and kudos for you for talking about it to us complete strangers. We're all behind you and rooting for you, mate. Thank you for making my working hours more tolerant by listening to your great shows. I love the way it feels like we are just sitting around a bar table, chewing the fat, and really appreciate all the time and effort you and your team put into every second of Spaced Out Radio. Sorry for taking up your spare time. Keep the battling away, mate. Warm regards, Graham. Graham, tip of the cap to you, my friend. Tip of the cap. Thank you very much. I love you. Appreciate that.
Very nice. Dave, you're not alone. So many of us are battling that right now. I don't know if it's the energy, what we're all going through. Something's shifting. We're all feeling it. It's a tough time.
Yeah. I know. I think I'm getting better. I'm feeling more energy coming through.
Good.
So it is something that I am feeling better recently.
Good. I know it's hard to do sometimes, but try to wake up in the morning and think of things you're grateful for. The littlest things.
I'm grateful for you, Katie Page. Even though you likely won't be at our Vegas event this year or next year.
When is it? When is it this year?
Well, I think it's the weekend before Contact in the Desert.
I'm so busy before that. Oh,
I know.
Dang
You
it.
had to go get a job with them.
Well, I am grateful for that. Speaking of gratitude.
I'm teasing when I say that.
I know. Oh.
We got 20 seconds. Big thank you, Jenny Kim, T-Bone with 5 gifts of memberships, Pam and Sally for the super chats. Greatly appreciate the love and support. Don't forget to shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag, so check it on out. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to remind all of you that if you missed most of this show or others, you could check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. Katie Page on the big show with the encounters tonight. And we always appreciate it when Katie drops on by each and every week to hang on out with us. Thank you, Katie, for being here.
Thank you. All right, we got a few more for California, and then we're going to go into Manitoba. Okay, so this is another 73 case out of Lemon Grove, California. This is November 1973. 2 young boys, I like these kid encounters. 2 young boys encountered a large dome-topped UFO with 4 legs. The craft emitted a bright red light from the dome and a sequence of green lights around the rim. I've heard that before too. As the object began to rotate, it emitted a woo 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 sound that increased in tempo. The boys experienced chills, tingling sensations, and a sense of impending blackout or death. Ooh, that's scary. Others in the area reported TV interference during the event, suggesting electromagnetic effects. Something else we don't hear as often anymore like we used to back in the day. I think their technology is advancing just like ours. They don't need to drain it. They don't need to drain it from our power TVs anymore. Maybe we don't, our TVs are different now. Maybe they can't use it anymore. I don't know. Okay, so, all right. The French Gulch sand and metal humanoid encounter. This is also 1970s French Gulch, California. A family experienced repeated encounters with humanoid beings near their home. Physical evidence was left behind in the form of a strange pile of sand and metal, which was later analyzed and found to be composed of rock fragments and manufactured materials, probably from the earth. So I guess the beings were described as human-like with odd proportions and movements. Let's move to Manitoba. That other one's kind of lame. I don't want to go on that one. Now, again, we're going to start with the case. Quiz. This is a quiz for everybody. What is the most famous case out of Manitoba, Canada?
I know.
It happened on my birthday.
Am I allowed to say it?
Yeah.
The Stefan Michalak case.
Yeah. Yep. Stefan Michalak.
Falcon Lake incident.
Yeah. May 20th on my birthday again. Not the same year, but on my birthday.
You want to know an interesting fact about that case?
I do.
The defense minister of Canada at that time was Paul Hellyer.
Oh, right. That's right.
Yeah.
He talked a lot about this case, didn't he?
He did, but I think Paul Hellyer went to his grave with a lot of UFO secrets. He didn't admit to much, and he made claims that a lot of his interest in this subject happened well after he was out of government.
Okay.
I don't buy that. I did a show with Victor Vigiani on it a couple weeks ago, and even Victor had some questions about whether or not he knew more than what he did when he was in government back in the 1960s.
Yeah, especially if he was in there during the Stephen Mahalik case, because that's a good one. In fact, the glove from the Mahalik case is at Dave Marler's in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. So he has some of that physical evidence in a glass case there at the National UFO Historical Record Center. It's pretty cool to see. But of course, that's an interesting encounter. He's out there mining, for his rocks and his hobby, and he encounters this shiny metallic oval shaped with a dome on top. Basically, there was a hum sound, which is interesting. He got the grid pattern burn, so there's a lot of physical evidence in that case. The sulfur smell, he was dizzy, he was sick. I think that's one of the better cases out there. But again, we're looking at the UFOdex.com to try to find those more obscure cases. I can't talk about Manitoba without talking about your lake monsters. I'm sure you're very familiar with your lake monsters. Are those still ongoing out there?
Yeah.
The Manipogo and the Winnipogo? Is that what they're called?
Yes, they are.
And they're still being reported.
Apparently so.
Wow.
Canada, believe it or not, has a plethora of lake monsters. Like in British Columbia here alone, I believe there's about 9 or 10.
Really?
The largest one, of course, the Ogopogo. Then you have the Canham Lake Monster, the Thetis Lake Monster. A few of these are on Vancouver Island, which would make sense because obviously with the Vancouver Island being surrounded by Pacific Ocean, you would think that maybe back in a long time ago that some of these creatures maybe got stuck in these waterways and then eventually adapted to fresh water, or maybe there's water caves that go through that they can travel through. But yeah, in British Columbia, I think it has like 9 or 10.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Why not?
Yeah, crazy.
We're discovering things every day. Things are going extinct every day and new things are being discovered every day. So why not a big, scary water monster? Okay, so this is one out of the Snow Lake. Do you know where Snow Lake is?
In Manitoba, no.
Okay, this is in the 1960s. This is a couple witnesses, and she did a newspaper article, and she calls it the sighting of a lifetime in her 15 minutes of fame, which is kind of funny. And because her 15 minutes of fame was from the newspaper article. But while returning from Flin Flon, is that right? Is that a town? Flin Flon, to Snow Lake one evening with her neighbor, Linda, they witnessed strange lights on the highway. She later described the event in her article titled Unidentified Objects Baffle Snow Lakers. For 3 nights, residents saw a fast-moving object in the southwest sky around 5:30 p.m. It's pretty early. Visible for nearly half an hour. On the one night, just past Cranberry, she and Linda saw a green light appear, vanish, then reappear closer, an oval glowing object about 20 feet wide, hovering just above the road and casting a yellow light. When they signaled with their headlights, it rotated but didn't retreat. Terrified, they backed up repeatedly as the light followed them. Finally, it faded away near Cranberry's lights. When they reached the Simon House Road, they realized they had half an hour of missing time. So this thing was like pacing their car. Again, very similar to an encounter out there in the San Luis Valley where Harry King was being paced by a UFO. Stop, started, that kind of thing. So that's kind of crazy. Now, this is a recent case in 2024 in Winnipeg River, Fort Alexander glowing orb video. And this went viral. These were very bright. They described them as 2 as bright as the sun type orbs. I thought I printed a picture, but maybe I left it downstairs. Oh, no, I have it. But it looks like 2 suns right there on the horizon. And what's interesting about this report, the people that claim to have taken this photo claim to be quite the skeptics. and really poo-pooed UFOs in general until they had this encounter, and they ruled out everything they could think of, and it was left a mystery. And this was just recently in 2024 over there by the Winnipeg River. Did you ever see that photo there?
I did not.
Yeah. So that's an interesting one. And then I know how much time we have, maybe 5 minutes.
1 minute.
Oh, 1 minute. Well, we're going to have to save Charlie Red Star for later. That's Grant Cameron's book.
Oh, yes.
And that, of course, was a fascinating case. So let's save that for another time. We'll do Charlie Red Star another time.
I love it.
Because that's a good case.
Katie, thank you again for coming back on Spaced Out Radio with the Encounters. Tell everybody where they can find your YouTube channel.
At Rocky Mountain Ranch Research with Katie Page.
That's why you're the best right there. Just nailing that down right there on your YouTube channel, Rocky Mountain Ranch Research with Katie Page. She joins us each and every week for the Encounters. Thank you, Katie. It's time for the weird news of the week.
As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the latest bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News.
Loud noises!
I am good at things, fighting and reading the news.
It's time once again for Spaced Out Radio's Weird News of the Week.
Well, if you're a fan of Texas Tech college football, please do not throw the tortillas anymore. Okay, apparently this got the team in trouble. Yes, Texas Tech is banning the throwing of all tortillas by fans on kickoffs after the 14th ranked football team was penalized twice and fined for objects being thrown onto the field in their most recent home game. Athletic director Kirby Hocutt said Monday the fans entering the stadium would be instructed to discard their tortillas, and there would be reminders before kickoff for anyone who took tortillas in and gave them to give them to stadium workers in order for them to be thrown away. Anyone caught throwing tortillas would have their ticket privileges revoked from the rest of the academic year, according to that's all across sports, according to Hocutt. The announcement came a little more than a week after the Red Raiders were given 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties after kickoffs in a 42-17 win over Kansas. Oklahoma State visits this Saturday. Hocutt was the lone dissenting vote when the Big 12 Conference approved a policy to penalize teams for objects thrown on the field. The vote came just before the season, and Hocutt was defiant in his reaction to the rule and its effect on a tradition that goes back years at Texas Tech. This situation is on me, Hocutt said. I leaned into this of throwing tortillas at the beginning of the football season. Now I must ask everyone to stop, and I must ask our staff to enforce this on game day. Now, Coach Joey McGuire had some harsh words for the fans after the game against the Jayhawks, but said while sitting alongside Hocutt at the coach's regular Monday meeting with reporters that he also had encouraged fans to continue throwing tortillas, but only on opening kickoff. The Big 12 rule states that officials will issue a warning for a first offense and assess 15-yard penalties thereafter. I leaned into it also, McGuire said. I believe in tradition. The tortillas aren't hurting anybody. A tortilla has never hurt anybody in the world. The beautiful part of college sports, and this coming from a Canadian where our universities up here have very little tradition. But in the U.S., tradition in college sports is everything. It is. Whether it's Enter Sandman at Virginia Tech and the crowd starts hopping, which literally causes a minor earthquake, or at Clemson where don't touch my rock, okay? It goes from there. You know, I mean, it's not like the WNBA where they're throwing sex toys onto the court. That's dangerous. But tortillas? Nah, let them throw. Fly the tortillas there, Texas Tech. Let them fly. Here's a weird one. A hostile STD-carrying monkey has busted loose from a large trailer truck hauling primates after the semi flipped over on a highway. The wreck went down this past Tuesday in Heidelberg, where the truck containing several monkeys infected with hepatitis C, herpes, and COVID crashed en route from Tulane University to a Florida testing lab. Witnesses shot camera footage that captured the monkey climbing out of the trailer and wandered around in a rural area. Cops say 6 monkeys made a break for it, but 5 have been destroyed and 1 is still on the loose. Police warned the public that the monkey is super aggressive towards humans. Translation: if you see a monkey on the run, don't approach it, just call 911. Mississippi wildlife officials and local cops are already out trying to nab the furry baboon, but can't seem to find the chip anywhere. Also, as for Tulane University, officials say, despite what the cops say, these primates in question belong to another entity and are not infectious, meaning they don't have diseases. They add, we are actively collaborating with local authorities and will send a team of animal care experts to assist as needed. Well, hold on a second here. They're talking that they're destroying these monkeys, but then they're saying, well, don't, they're for research. Just let them be. Either way, that's just scary. I wouldn't want to run into that. Not for me. How about this? I know this is going to sound way over dramatic. Why don't we just stop testing on monkeys? Why don't we just stop testing on animals? Okay, whether it's makeup or for diseases. Okay, maybe not rats. Okay, because rats are, well, they're rats. Okay, they're rats. But like monkeys and dogs and all of that, let's just get rid of that. I don't like it. Let's move on. There's my political rant for the day. The confusion began a long time ago when Casey Dean received a mysterious dot on his plane ticket. The self-described alien enthusiast of the X-Files fan who was traveling to Area 51 for his 39th birthday thought it was unusual. He'd never seen it before and didn't know what it could mean for international tourists like himself. But like most people passing time at the airport, he had a few beers and forgot about it, continuing on his 30-hour journey from Sydney to Las Vegas. Just as he was about to board his connecting flight at LAX, an enormous airport security guard suddenly pulled him into a room where 3 large men began relentlessly interrogating him. They wanted to know why he had recently appeared on Russian TV and what exactly he intended to do at a government-controlled facility like Area 51. He told them the truth. He and his childhood friend, Edwards Nitz, owned the world's oldest McDonald's Quarter Pounder, and they rose to internet fame as a result of explaining their bizarre appearance on a state-run television network that espouses political propaganda to millions of people. Eventually, one of the intimidating officials lost his composure and smirked. After a 45-minute-long ordeal, Dean was finally released. Yeah, they realized that I'm legitimately just a drunk Aussie going to see his family at Area 51, who happens to have custody of the world's oldest burger, he said matter-of-factly. Since then, the burger in question has traveled throughout the continent and been showcased extensively on local news outlets, even catching the attention of visibly disturbed Joe Rogan. Now, the American icon, fondly called Senior Burger, is about to turn 30 in November, and its local stewards across the globe staunchly believe it's the oldest quarter pounder in existence. McDonald's, however, hasn't been exactly vocally supportive of this, and Dean and Nitz are not the only people who claim to have had decades-old patties in their possession. To Dean and Nitz' fascination and amusement, Senior Burger, delicately wrapped in the waxy beige paper, still looks perfectly frozen in time. It was never refrigerated, and it has spent the majority of its life cycle stuffed in cupboards, garbage bags, and sheds. Despite its rough upbringing, it's still eerily intact and hasn't grown any mold or developed any foul odor. Dean says he wasn't kidding. Even though the burger and I are almost the exact same age, it's arguably in much better condition, the man says. The only thing that happens is it's shrunk in size. Nitz tells me one day over a video call, it's no longer looking like a hamburger, he continued. It's no longer food. It just looks like artwork. He added, explaining that he'd love for it to be in a gallery one day. At a glance, he and his accomplice looked like they could pass off as outsider artists themselves. Deed, who works as a dog trainer and a musician, had an enormous facial piercing and impish almond eyes, while Nitz, a bricklayer in Adelaide, who's chatting with us from inside his car, has bushy gray mutton chops that make him look like a Civil War or general or our Keith Andrews. Yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of scary. A 30-year-old burger from McDonald's and it's still intact. Oh, man. And because it's Halloween, we're going to quickly say this story. People in the United States celebrate Thanksgiving every year with a feast that includes pumpkins. But it turns out that pumpkins, along with the rest of the plants genus of gourds and squash, have us to thank too. More than 10,000 years ago, the extremely bitter tasting wild ancestors of the cucurbita plants were thriving across the New World, along with those large mammals such as giant sloths and mammoths that grazed on them. Today, these wild plants are rare, whereas the sweet-tasting domesticated species are extremely common in our gardens. That is, what would have happened to what do they call this? Pumpkins, gourds, and squash without human intervention? Well, they're saying that if humans hadn't come around, pumpkins would be extinct. Yeah, the giant mammals were eating them all in the bitter cucurbita fruit and depressed all their seeds that was causing the plants to go extinct. But apparently some survived. And it's all because of us now and the success of things like Halloween and Thanksgiving that the pumpkin still survives and survives strongly, maintaining its roots with tradition. How awesome is that? Hey, I want to say a big thank you to Oldie Dammegard for coming on the show tonight. And thank you to Swamp Dweller and the legendary Katie Page for joining us here in hour number 3. What a great show tonight. As we say goodnight to you. And hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. Rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
We're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And you want to bring a friend? We got room for them, too. Good night, everybody. Right there. That would be an Oct 29, 25. And this would be. Give me 2 seconds. You know what I love? You know what I love? I'm going to tell you what I love. Outside of Nicole Sackage being number one. Come on, move over. I love it when I have a guest on that somebody doesn't like, and then immediately my show is terrible, slipping away. Guest is bottom of the barrel wherever you found this person. Yeah, I love people like that. Your judgment is slipping, my friend. I am told on X. Tonight's guest was the bottom of the barrel scammer. Wherever you found this clown, unbelievable. You know, let me tell you something about our new listeners. Our veteran listeners will actually understand this. Hi, Cat Chaser. So it's nothing broken to them. My job is not to influence you on what you are to believe or not to believe. Okay? My job is to bring people in, and you have a choice whether or not you want to believe them or not. And if you don't believe them, you know what? That's fine. That's okay. But you don't have to give, cheap shots to me. Right? You don't. Okay? If you got a big issue, hit me up privately. You know? My God. I mean, do I have to clear all my guests through this person now on X? Hey, is this one okay? Am I allowed to interview that person? I don't know. It happens every time we have like conspiracy theorists or flat earthers on, and we don't do a lot of those shows. We don't. We don't do a lot of those shows because, and it's not because of the medium or that we edit what we do or anything controversial like that. That's not the case whatsoever. The reason why we don't is literally because of the algorithms. A show like that, like tonight, believe it or not, can actually get you in trouble if you don't watch with what you're saying and the topics you talk about. It can, the way social media is today, which is hypersensitive. Okay, a show like that could literally get your channel a strike. And if you get 3 strikes within 90 days, you literally get your channel banned. So I saw a lot of your questions out there. Okay, but there are certain topics that you're not supposed to talk about if you want your channel to survive. Now, on the radio side, I have no problem going down that road. Radio can be controversial without being anything. And it's not a matter of I'm going to watch what I say here because I'm probably going to say it incorrectly. Okay? It's not a matter of freedom of speech. It's a matter of freedom of topic. And the problem that you have when you get into some of these conspiracy theories is some people who speak about this, they lambaste the truth a little bit more than what is necessary. They're not looking for facts. They're looking to cash in on emotion, which has caused a lot of trouble for many outlets that fearmonger or that present evidence that may not be true. Okay. And I'm not, you may not agree with what I'm saying, and that's why I'm being a little bit shy of what I want, what I may or may not believe, but I do have to watch the words, because for many people, including my small business, okay, there are subjects that you don't broach. Okay. And getting into major conspiracy theory, then you have to be careful. Right? That's why I don't want jab talk. That's why I don't want Sandy Hook or whatever other type of conspiracies you the listener may have interest in. It's because I'm trying to find a balance between talking about these subjects and trying to bring them to you, so that way it doesn't affect my business. But there are some people out there that feel it is their and flat earther, you put it perfectly. On YouTube, your speech rights are not constitutional rights, they're contractual rights. You agree to their rules. And that is completely true. All right, we are using a private company's platform to broadcast our show. YouTube is not a public governmental forum that you can say what you want, how you want, in a free speech attitude. Okay, I remember when I started, what the hell's going on here? Hold on. I remember when I started watching YouTube for the first time. Okay, it was they had, before Google bought YouTube, YouTube was like Rumble. They played everything. And I remember, going back in the day where we needed news stories, and we were hearing all these horrible news stories coming out of the Middle East. And you'd go on YouTube and you'd watch the video and you'd be like, oh my God. Right? And that's where you got your news from. And then you could report on it. But now you don't see those images. You don't see that stuff on YouTube anymore, because they've, lack of a better term, they've whitewashed it. And so, but that's their priority, right? And they're allowed to do that as a private entity. And you got to play within their rules. You don't, unfortunately, have a choice. And the platform is too big to be able to say, no, YouTube, my 30,000 subscribers are way more powerful than you. Can't do that. Right? And like I said, I'm not saying I agree with it, but I understand the wording of it. Right? So when somebody starts harping on me about they don't like the guest, that's okay. You don't have to watch. Dogfather, who is complaining on X, you were talking about journalism slipping into infotainment earlier tonight on your show, and you've just done it yourself. My show is entertainment. What do you not get about that? My show is entertainment. Yes. Hard to believe, but it's entertainment. All right? That's what it's about. I don't get, if you have your thoughts, you're more than welcome to have your thoughts. I'm okay with that. Okay? Infotainment in news, I could tell you right now, my news director, I remember asking my news director, one of the biggest pricks I've ever met. And every week he had his hiring and firing list. And thankfully, I never got the firing. But I remember him saying to me point blank, this was in 2001. He said to me, David, he goes, thank you, Cat Chaser, by the way. He goes, people don't want hard news anymore. They're done with city hall meetings. They're done with council meetings. They're done with political stuff. They want entertainment. And the newsroom is shifting. The newsroom is shifting from news to infotainment. Realistically, infotainment started around 1994 with the O.J. Simpson trial. CNN really brought that in. And they were getting massive ratings over the O.J. Simpson trial. Hey, God moderator, how you doing? So you don't have to like my guest. That's okay. I'm all through that. Okay. But when you don't like a guest, okay, when you don't like a guest, you have a couple of things you can do. Number one, maybe that's not the night for you to tune in. And I know for a lot of you, you enjoy what we do on a nightly basis. Okay. You do. And you look forward to what we do on a nightly basis. And I'm very thankful for that. Right? I am. But here's what you can do. Maybe number one, it's not the night for you to tune in. If you don't like a guest or if you don't agree with the topic. And the amount of times we actually do a conspiracy topic like that is extremely rare. But number two, you could just sit back, roll your eyes, and just think, this is part of the woo. This is part of the woo, and I may not agree with it, but there's other good people who are in the chat room or tuning on in, and we can have a good time conversing. You know, I may or may not like this guy. I may or may not agree with what this person is saying, whatever it may be, whatever the cause is. And you just enjoy the night saying, you know, it's just like when we're at work, when you're at work or whatever, sometimes you feel that you're having an off night. Okay, treat it as such. Oh, shit. I forgot to edit out the swear words. Yeah, we're going to have to bring those back here in a second. Yeah, that ain't good. Totally forgot because I was caught up in this conversation. Okay. There's no need to start insulting my show. There's no need to start saying that we're slipping or that we've gone to garbage or anything like that. Go back and count how many conspiracy theory shows I've done. It's okay. Sometimes your mom made you eat food that you didn't want to eat either. All right. So now that we got that done, now I got to do this. Yeah, I'll tell you right now, I thought Ole Dammegård was a great guest. Did I agree with everything that he was saying? No. Yeah, the oxymoron in that comment, eh, Parabarv? All right, so let's go like this. So we need number 1, number 2, and 3. Okay, so let's go like this. Hold on. That's Melinda from last night. So let's put that in there. And let's go like this. This will change the name to 1029. All right. So then we'll go like this. Move these here, close that, and then we could open this up and go 1, 2. Give me 2 seconds, guys. I can't see what you're saying. 3. How'd that end up there? All right, there we go. Oh, look who just became a member. Thank you very much. Still trying to figure it out. Still trying to figure it out. All right, so we got 10:07. 10:07. So that would have been in the first minute here. Work. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a Patreon in the hub. What is this? Obliviscence. We're talking about singers.
And I tell you, Mark Chapman, if it was Mark Chapman, feel.
Oh, yes. Let's bring him back in. Ola, thank you so much for being.
Thank you. And I tell you, Mark Chapman, if it was Mark Chapman, feel free to chop off my right arm. Absolute bullshit. Sorry, absolute shit. Sorry, absolute beast. Absolute bullshit. Sorry, absolute BS. It is.
Save as. Yes, replace. Save. So, anyways, that's my take on it. Let's go to number 2. This is where he used fuckery. That was good. Fuckery. All right, so we're coming on a break. That's 35, 37, around 39 right here.
And so instead of you being the horrendous murderer, rapist that just goes into whatever weak, innocent country and just slaughter everybody, if they attacked you first, then that would justify you doing it. So instead of being horrible, they were applauded. And then over the years, the pirates found out that, whoa, that's a good one. So they started doing the same, but they turned it around so that, for instance, they put, if it was a Spanish armada that was out there, they just put up the Spanish flag. And then they got closer and closer and closer to the target. And many times the normal ship, they just, oh, it's one of ours. And they didn't really notice the peg legs and the parrot on the shoulders until it was too late. So a false flag is a psychological mind fuckery, sorry, it around. So a false flag is a psychological mind fuckery, sorry for the mind fuckery, sorry. Fuckery, sorry for the fuckery, sorry.
You know, that's the first time we've had a fuckery on this show.
Mind, sorry for the name, but that is when they turned it around. They play with your mind. So
Save, replace. Save. That's 2 for 2. Get rid of that one. And now we got to find this one. Okay, so we're at 906, 916, 918, 920. That's at 922. 922 should be around here.
and there's no logic for me. There's no gain for me to have been in the receiving end of all of this. And also, I mean, like all of the censorship and the attacks and I could go on for hours and hours of what happened, because the truth is not popular among the people who are carrying it out. The dark forces, that's the only thing they really fear, is the truth. That's why they eliminate people. When it comes to a high level of when you really start digging into, it's not enough to like somebody on something on Facebook or whatever, but when you start digging and you start pulling the curtain, that's when it gets ugly. And so unfortunately, I have multiple friends who are no longer with us. I have people that are very dear to me that had their career destroyed, their reputation, their credibility, their families taken away from them. Then, I mean, this is an ugly world to get into. So from a logical point of view, it makes no sense for me to be here at all. Financially, no sense whatsoever. But there has been something in me that has just been saying, go on, go on, go on. And I'm like, but I'm shit scared. I don't. Shit scared. I don't want to. I'm shit scared. I don't want to go on, go on, go on. And also putting my family at risk, but I'm shit scared. I don't want to go on. Like, but I'm shit scared. I'm shit scared. And I'm like, but I'm scared. I don't want to go on, go on, go on.
Beautiful.
And also,
that's good editing right there. That is good frickin' editing. Good job, Davey boy. Yeah, man. Clear these, put those in the recycling bin. All right. Cancel. All right. So we like this. Oh, okay. That changed them. All right. Let's just go back here then and take these out. Put that there. So where did number 1 go? Oh. Well, let's just go like this. So number 1. Yes. Oh, it's in there. Cancel. All right. We're good there. These are all been cleaned. Dammegard right there. Clear that out. All right. There we go. Bear with me here. Upload. Desktop. There we go. Upload. There we go. All right, there we go. Tomorrow night on the show, Varla Ventura. Varley has returned to her monthly spot. We're going to be talking about werewolves, dogman, people converting to werewolves. How freaky is that? Thank you tonight to Kimberly, T-Bone with 5 gifted memberships, Pam Harris, Sally Elcott, Jenny Whitebear, and Cat Chaser, the awesome one. God Moderator, good to have you back, buddy, and thank you for joining the membership. And tomorrow night, we'll see you soon. Much love, everybody. Have a good night. I'm going to bed. See ya.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.